memory is that perfect and can't be influenced, you have to think again. And especially now when we
With
know
one time events, I would agree with you. But it's if I'm not going to believe that I can see something every day for 3,000 days straight and understand what it is, you have to start to doubting your visual perception exists well at all.
well, I see a lot of intellectual dishonesty though. Like I believe in, I mean, I've experienced synchronicities. I've experienced things that I'm not going to tell somebody to take my word for precognitions, telepathy, or anything like that. But these things to me are just unexplained. But when it comes to the Mandela effect, I do find a level of intellectual dishonesty. So you have someone like Stavely who will say, Ed McMahon passed out big checks. I'm like, where are the people who received those checks? Do you have any friends that grew up in mansions? And they say, yeah, we got a big check from Ed McMahon back in the day. There's no evidence that this ever happened. Well, moreover, in the last couple of years, a lot of videos have surfaced that show Ed McMahon with American Family Publishing. So instead of admitting that he was wrong this whole time about Ed McMahon, he says the Matrix downloaded these retroactively into the timeline.
And I'm aware of what he does, and I think it's not surprising that people who seem to have a lot invested in it, personally and possibly professionally, are the ones that seem to go out there with explanations and a big fervor for having to have it be true. It doesn't really concern me what people believe, but no one's going to talk me out of the fact that I didn't touch and feel and see globes that were different. And the night it happened to me, I called a friend who's also a map collector, and I got him to kind of tricked him to go to the North Pole on one of his book of maps.
Okay, now speaking of maps, and I just can't dispute your, personal subjective experience, and I find this all very fascinating. So when it comes to maps, we're talking about this. Do you think that the Earth is a ball as represented on, with the maps, the globes? Do you think we're on a
with
ball
with
Earth?
with curved water flying around a fireball. That sounds stupid.
Okay, that's a pretty decent argument from what incredulity it does actually. And one of the
You
things.
know, I do not believe in the heliocentric globe model. It's silly in every way.
Okay, so we're on. Yeah, I'm sort of in the same sheet there, where I'm not willing to say I know for a fact that the Earth is a pizza with a glass bowl on top of a footstool underwater. I can't say that, but I do know that I don't have enough information either to conclude that it's a big water ball flying around a sun and that there is no up and down and everything is relative and falling through infinite space. No, I don't have enough information to conclude that. So I'm not rushing to conclusions. I don't have certainty about the globe. And I would contend, too, the people that do have a lot of faith. It's faith based, not evidence based. So, in many ways, I would say that the globe thing requires a bit of, a subjective leap of faith, much like the Mandela effect. It's canceled
You
out
know,
by evidence.
I think that for people who haven't experienced the change that they are certain about, it requires a lot of faith. After your world is upended, nobody in my position wants to have it happen to them. It has only brought me pain and suffering. It hasn't made anything better for me. Um, and I don't want to say that I wish it didn't happen because I'm strong enough to deal with reality, but it did happen, and it's not like something I wanted to run across. But could I ask you a question about the globe model, if you would?
Sure.
So this is something I haven't seen many people address, and I'm going to kind of answer it. Just tell me that this makes sense instead of asking you to answer it. So what I've said recently, and I've come across this as kind of a hole in their observations. So if you have let's say a person in South America, and let's say everything lines up where a person on the edge of Africa can also see, they're both at night looking at the moon, and they're on the equator. Um, to look at the moon, they would both be looking north, and if they're both looking straight north, excuse me, to look at Polaris, they would both be looking north, and if they're both looking straight north, those azimuths would never converge. Does that sound correct, at least according to their model? Right,
Um,
their lines of vision would never converge because they're both in line with each other, looking north.
I would have to see it to know exactly what you're referring to here. But
If you just imagined a globe, that's what I imagined on. And I was thinking, you'll be able to figure it out without going doing some study. But you look at the globe; they're both looking straight up, which is straight north, to see Polaris. They're not looking to the left, they're not looking to the right because they wouldn't. They would look straight north, the North Star. That right there proves that they're not looking at the same direction and kind of debunks the globe.
interesting. I'd like to see that modeled out. I kind of think I know where you're going with this. But when it comes to this, what is it that led you into the flat Earth topic itself? Was there some sort of was it the
My
moon?
whole awakening started with Niner one Uno.
Okay, 911. I see. Now, do you believe that anybody died on September the 11th, 2001?
I believe at least a few, but it might be very few.
Do you think they died in the towers or in the CGI planes?
Somewhere in New York, I know someone who cried when I brought it up because they had lost somebody close to them, supposedly, and they're someone very obscure.
This is
Near me.
statistically this is incredible because you know somebody who knows somebody that died at 9/11. Yesterday somebody called
Yep.
that knows somebody
Yep.
that
I'm
died
not
in
saying they did. I
yesterday,
just brought it up, and they
but
immediately
yesterday,
started bawling.
okay, yesterday somebody says, "Oh, I have a friend who knows somebody who
Uh-huh.
died at Kobe's crash and somebody died in Vegas." So this is 2 nights in a row where people are adjacent to somebody that died in these major fake transformative psyops. And this just tells me that a lot of people are willing to lie. And I don't know why.
But
Nobody died. Nobody did. There were zero provable deaths on that day. The SSI,
well, provable. I agree, and I'm not saying I'm certain of it, but
well, but why would
it
you
was like
even,
it was.
why would you even put it on the table unless, do you believe that the planes were real?
No, no, I don't believe in really anything of the mainstream
Wait,
narrative.
if the
Zero
plane,
of it.
wait, if the planes weren't real then, and nobody was on them, then how would they have died?
Someone let somebody slip through the cracks in their perimeter to keep people away from the buildings that fell.
So you think that
That's the
maybe
only
somebody
plausible.
got murdered somewhere as a, see, that's pure speculation and
Maybe somebody.
conjecture. Uh,
Yeah, understood completely. But I'm just giving the truthful account that I know. That if you ask me, do you think someone died? It was
okay,
2 weeks
another
after I
example.
asked my.
Braveheart, the movie. How many people died during that movie Braveheart? We had all those big sword fights, arrows everywhere, spears. How many people actually lost their heads?
Um, just the moviegoers when they paid for it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, speaking of, that's Mel Gibson, right? And in that movie, he's all but crucified and he's martyred. And then you look at the other movie he did, Passion of the Christ. Then you look at Mad Max, where he's got the stick across his back and he has the last gallon of fuel, on the sticks at the side. Like his fuel is going to save the world, like the blood of Christ is going to save the world. That man is constantly typecasting himself as some kind of Jesus. Talking about Mel Gibson, a common
Yep.
theme with a lot of these things. But again, my point being, 9/11 was a movie on the scale of Braveheart. That's what I'm
No,
saying
can
here.
I ask? Do you think the buildings fell? And I think there was buildings there. Now there's not because I've seen them personally
Sure. Yeah, I
before they
say
fell.
we had a controlled demolition disguised as a terrorist attack. That's it's as
And
simple as
I,
that.
I agree with you 100%. But my thinking is the reason there's a old lady next to me in one of the offices I rent, and she was a psychiatrist and a very nice woman. Had hobbies that were, on the up and up. Was a writer, and I asked her about 9/11 before I knew it was a psyop, and she broke down crying immediately because apparently she at least thought that she lost someone close to her. That's the only reason I said that. It's not like I know any more than that.
Yeah, I
I
kind of
I
find
know
that.
enough
Look,
people to
I
know
mean,
that
what was
that
her
don't
name?
break down
What was her
crying.
first name?
Kathleen.
Okay, just checking. Because your friend Kathleen might have been traumatized by the
She was
media.
she wasn't a friend, but yeah, she was a sweet neighbor. Meaning she rented a suite next to me.
Look, let me tell you a
She,
story here. There's a guy
hey,
named
that's very that I had not thought about that. That is very possible that she was traumatized by the whole thing because it was a crazy day. I remember a lot of details from my day, picking up my sister and her friends from school, the roads being completely empty. It was surreal.
yeah, exactly. There were people who might have, but like I had a conversation with someone who told me that they saw the first plane hit the building. And then he told me too, he said, please don't say nobody died, because he told me that he had a friend who was a paramedic who was traumatized from seeing bodies hitting the ground. and that she had to see a psychiatrist literally every day. So, in order to protect the feelings of his traumatized friend, who's probably not even listening to me, he wanted me to not talk about it. Well, anyway, it comes out a few years later that this guy didn't actually see the plane hit the tower, and he no longer maintains that. So, again, there's so many liars and liars upon liars. It's just everywhere. Liars. Unpaid crisis actors, liars. And a lot of people, they buy into the big lies and they become liars by proxy without even knowing it. Everybody who believed in the official story of 2020 was a liar. Even if they didn't know it, they're just telling somebody else's lies. So, that's why I think this Mandela effect thing is interesting and problematic because we're trying to sift through a world of lies, and here we have an explanation for the world that I believe is based on misrepresenting facts, and I don't think it gets us closer to truth. But I don't think religions necessarily get us closer to truth. I think religions are really about the community itself. It's a super organism.
Yep, I agree with you, and that's why I stay out of the greater community. There's a few researchers that are public, like money bags, that I think are for the most part on the up and up. They believe what they say what they believe, and are not trying to hoodwink anybody. But in the larger community, most of them are in it for how it can benefit them and to prove themselves correct. And there's certain things I remember well, and there's certain things that are fuzzy, and there's certain things I don't remember. And I'm willing to admit that, where most people in the community are not.
Now, what about synchronicity? Do you have separate experiences with synchronicity?
Not as much as some of the people who experience sync on the regular. Just to give you the background of me, I always wanted aliens to be real when I was younger. That's something I researched: aliens, books, all the YouTube videos, and it wasn't. I had given up on supernatural, metaphysical, and all that stuff being real. At least by when I discovered 9/11, which was around 2010. Um, and so then I was 8 years of being a materialistic reductionist physics believer. And one day I was walking by a map that's been on my wall for more than a decade, and I turned, I saw it, and almost had a heart attack.
Interesting.
So
Well,
it
I'm
wasn't something that I remembered once. I saw it every day, and then one day it could have changed a week before. I just didn't notice it, but one day I did notice it. And then I went to the maps and atlases that I put in my attic years ago that were taped in a box, and sat on my floor for 2 hours scratching my head.
fascinating. The Mandela effect, I classify it more as a subjective, new age, even closer to Wicca or magical thinking. And I don't think it's in the same category as media analysis. But do you engage in that? Like, do you think the news is pretty much fake, or is it hit or miss? Are you someone who, are you a
So, just to answer your previous question, after the Mandela effect experience hit me, I think I've been more open to other things, and I do experience some synchronicities. But the people who talk about sync, they seem to get them almost daily, and that definitely does not happen to me. At least I don't perceive it to. I think the news is pretty much 99 point, I don't know, 99.8 fake. It's all a show.
Fascinating. Okay, well, hey, I appreciate you calling in and lending your perspective because I think we should be able to analyze reality, reality investigate, without going for each other's throats. It doesn't need to be a war. We don't need to cancel the people who don't agree. And so I was mostly just surprised at the level of vitriol hurled at me. They called me a consciousness assassin and a god blocker. Do you feel like I'm trying to suppress your consciousness here?
The name calling doesn't do anybody any good. Calling, taking whatever the Mandela effect is and turning it into other words that say that people are hoodwinked. Some people are definitely hoodwinked, and I've seen them be hoodwinked. But it's just going to get worse if people continue on both sides to do that. And I think that the community, Mandela effect community, on by and large, is the worst offender. Can I offer you one more thought about how I think possibly subjective reality operates
Yeah,
based on the
please.
research?
Yeah, please do.
So, yeah, so the way that it seems to me to be working, and I don't have anything other than Just analysis and groups of data that are hard to present to say, to tell you, is that everybody more or less has subjective experiences, and one person could see something, other person sees something different, and then there is groups that are I can't define who sees what, but there are groups of these experiences we don't see when you're doing the for Mandela himself. I don't have a strong recall for that, but there wasn't 40 different memories. There was basically two, and they were pretty consistent in their details. So let's say we have a group of two memories. It seems to me that whenever those are required to converge, that the reality picks one and retrocausally makes history match it. And I would guess it's the one with the more energy and the more consciousnesses behind it.
Interesting. Okay. Well, look, I'm open to the idea that we sentient beings are co-creators to some extent, and this explains the elite and their controlled media's obsession with harnessing, hijacking, and monopolizing our attention. Because I have read a lot about magic in theory and practice, and the theory of magic, a lot of it does involve the attention, the focused attention of the practitioner and the people in the ritual with them. And they're all essentially matrix batteries, amplifiers, magnifiers. So, if it is true that we're in any way responsible for the reality as we experience it, this, if we're somehow co-manifesting it with God or whatever, it would seem to me that that process has largely been monopolized, like everything else in this world. And to me, that's plausible. It's not the same as the Mandela effect, but these are adjacent concepts, and that's probably why I butt up against this topic, because I think we're all trying to figure out how much of this is subjective. And I just happen to think that ME is wrong. It doesn't make me bad, but I think it's wrong. I think it's a wrong
No,
explanation.
it doesn't. And hopefully, some of the people that have been against you in the community will listen to this call, because I think you were very fair to me, and that's not something we normally find. So thank you for that, and that's what more people need to do with any topic, and I'm sure you know that if you're willing to speak to me like this. On the co-creator thing, one thing I always point out is the radio. If on any given day driving home, 10,000 people are singing the same song together or whatever it might be, that's a lot of energy they're able to harness and point in a very specific direction.
Right. Yeah. Interesting points, especially when you consider this too. All these psyops where it's a timed release of a psychopathic terrorist attack, and it assaults all of our senses at the same time. And I think that our focus attention at that time ties into this magical practice. For example, 9/11 starts at 8:46 a.m., the moment that Mercury is rising. And Mercury rising, the temperature going up, the planetary alignment. I think these things are all timed and coordinated, and this is more suggestive of a lot of our big media events being some kind of magical ritual, group ritual intended, again, to keep us all hooked in and plugged in so they can feed off of our loosh, to use a term. I think it's Human Vibration coined it, but the idea that, yeah, they're getting some kind of currency out of us. And I think that's true.
Yeah, I think loose translates to light, and I agree with you 100%, man. Thank you very much for taking the call.
All right, have a great night. Thank you. All right, we had a person who has experienced not a typical uh, Mandela effect, but a reality shift or a change, a major discrepancy. Interesting. All right, well, we have many different competing explanations, and I guess the way of the world, though, is you kill the people who don't have the same explanation as you. So I'm just watching out the window to make sure that the necklacing brigades aren't coming for me. Someone posted a link here. This is the episode of Lassie where he pushes somebody into a well. And this is again an oil prospector.
After all, if you're going to come into this community and bring the measuring line. It's on the back seat of the car.
So what happens is Timmy confronts them, and his dog, Lassie, knocks the guy into the hole. And then when the guy falls down the hole, they have to go run and rescue the guy. So Timmy doesn't fall in the well. The biography written by Timmy John Provost, is called Timmy's in the Well, and it's an ironic joke about how he fell in everything but the well. All right, let me go through some comments. Slave Rescue Hound says, at the right angle, under the right sunlight, the buildings looked pretty damn empty. Yep, no floors matter. No floors matter. And I don't think there's any reason to just presume that people died at these events. I think that's kind of a comical assertion. And what it would do is it would turn it into a war crime. It would turn it into an atrocity, a conspiracy, and it would turn every crisis actor into a potential whistleblower. There's no way. It's just a mass casualty drill that's been miscontextualized. And they do these things all the time. Mitch says those buildings were mostly empty for many reasons, including asbestos, renovations, and the old stylings. Those buildings were a money pit. Well, I would contend that the plan to pull down the towers was in place before they even built them. 1968, they start the construction. Same year that 911 becomes the emergency number here in America. 33 years later, they pull it. 13 years later, the new tower goes up, it opens up on 113. The numbers 13 and 33, all this stuff is very occult. But it fits a pattern, and you can deconstruct it, and you can see that, no, it wasn't some random thing. You knew they were going to fall if you paid attention to the predictive programming, maybe not consciously. Now that we're more privy to how these things work, we're often able to call things in advance, often with precision. You can find on some of my podcast live streams from 6 months ago where I said the Great Reset, the pandemic is a cover for the elite going after the infodemic. And the infodemic is not just right-wing QAnon memes, but the infodemic is any kind of information that they don't control and monopolize. And here we have it as of the 322. Shout out to the Skull and Bones Society. Klaus Schwab came out and he said, the internet must be reformed. There's too much misinformation out there. This will be the next step for the Great Reset. Too much information, too many mind viruses, toxic mis, dis, and malinformation. They've replaced WMDs, weapons of mass destruction, with MDMs, mal, dis, and misinformation. There was no such thing as malinformation until recently. But anyway, it was predictable that this is the route they're going to go. So yes, I think that the towers were designed to be taken down. It was all part of an elaborate, multi-generational ritual. It doesn't mean demolition, and it doesn't mean that they put everything in place then, but yeah, they were built to be taken down. You can find many other clues here, like the construction date for the Pentagon. And to say that this isn't so, that these are just coincidences, puts you in the realm of coincidence theorists at this point. The Pentagon's construction started on 9/11, 1941. Why 9/11? It's because 9/11 is very significant on their calendar. It's the new year on the Coptic calendar. Let me show you something here too. Because the New Year date, as you know, it's all based on the dog star Sirius. That's what the whole thing is. On New Year's Eve with the ball dropping, you're actually paying homage to the dog star Sirius, which is the god of the Masons, etc. Well, 1 year prior to 9/11, another New Year date, and look, the other New Year date, Sirius rising. You know, they always mark it the Egyptian New Year. All the New Years are based around Sirius, is my point. Sirius the dog star. So here's Bill Clinton on September the 11th, the year 2000. He says, Sirius is beautiful. And he's hugging a dog named Sirius. 1 year later, this is Sirius the dog that died on 9/11. Supposedly, if you believe the story. But anyway, the more you dig into it, the more you find that this date has occult significance. There's significance to all these different facets to this ritual, and it becomes even more clear in hindsight when you find out how many other psyops are symbolically and ritually connected to 9/11. Case in point would be Derek Chauvin, George Floyd, Twin Cities, as we entered Gemini, the sign of the twins, at 8:46 9/11 starts? Well, Floyd 9/11 Floyd and Chauvin are in this operation where they're 9/11ing America. Chauvin kneels on Floyd for 8:46. Floyd is being kneeled on because of a counterfeit, a twin, a copy of a $20 bill. 20 means twin, twin tens. You fold up the 20, you got the burning twin towers on the back. There are so many connections with 9/11 and the Twin Cities George Floyd event, and it continues. There are many, many more threads we could go into. Infinite Plane Society, are you Mandela affected?
No, no, I'm not. I said you should make your conspiracy blog into a book about Mandela effect. Call one the Berenstein Penguins, and then do a second printing and call it the Berenstein Penguins.
I've designed some bear gwins. I can make it happen. So what do you think it
I
is
know.
then? Is the Mandela effect some kind of, I don't know, is it some kind of psyop in your view, or is it a misconception?
You know
Is it
what, man? I looked for that Timmy Geico commercial, and I thought I found it, and it was a GE commercial. The people who wrote Lassie are very big on their royalties. It was on Nickelodeon for like 20 years. So that was basically the family's bread and butter. I told you that one of my calls about Happy Birthday to You, right? It was a free song for the longest time, and you never hear it on television anymore. Because when the songwriter died, his kids were like, our dad wrote or our grandpa wrote the biggest song in the history of the world that everybody sings once a year for everybody. If it's ever on television, we want like, 50 grand or whatever. So then they just started playing like Stevie Wonder's, it's your birthday, because the royalties were less than what the family of Happy Birthday to You wanted. So they have that same zealous, greedy attitude when it comes to Geico. So they made that commercial where the Timmy ran or the kid was in the well. Maybe not even been Timmy. But the dog comes in, they're like, what is that last thing? And he goes, you could save 15% on your car insurance. So like the whole gimmick was the dog was more cared about your car insurance than the kid in the well. So that, we see all these slices and things, and we retain memory, and it's like a hoarder's house. It all gets thrown together like papers and books and crap like that in your brain. And, it's a big mess. So you go to Peak Road, but you see a pile of papers in your brain, and you assume that, yeah, that's what I remember. I'm, at 45, now I'm 47. I'm noticing that I ain't as swift as I used to be. And I noticed that when you realize you're either were wrong or you realize that you are wrong. So you either wrong when you were remembering it back then and you're realizing it now because of the internet. We didn't have the internet when I was, your memory was your memory. Now everything has been recorded and you can play it back if you can find it. You shock yourself. And that feeling of being wrong and realizing you were wrong, some people have this flawless attitude. Like, I could never be wrong. You'll notice it with the cancel culture. How dare you have an opinion that varies from mine? I need to shut you up. That's the same thing as this Mandela effect. I cannot possibly be wrong with what I'm remembering. Therefore, the whole universe must have changed because I can't be wrong. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's a bit of hubris, isn't it? And that's why I call it the me effect, because they call it that, the
Mm-hmm.
ME. It's like you really do have to believe that you're really at the
Well,
center of this.
we're
You're at the
default. We are raised like that by default. Remember Sesame Street? You are special. You are one of a kind. You are so important. You are priceless just because you are you. You start pumping that into a 3-year-old watching TV. That is not a good thing. I mean, it's nice to give people some self-respect and some dignity and whatever when you try. You don't want to tell kids you're worthless when they're growing up. But you also don't want them to make them think that they're the most important thing on earth just for being born. You know what I mean?
oh
And
yes,
now
yes. There's
you plant that as a seed. What are you going to grow into? Somebody who cannot be wrong. I am telling you, it's Berenstain Bears. I've never seen Berenstein. It's always been Who cares? It's always been Luke, I am your father. C-3PO never had 2 gold feet. It was always a silver foot. Nope, he always had 2 gold feet. It was never a silver foot. Who cares?
Well, you have a cult of agreed upon discrepancies, and they feel like these are miracles along a path. And this is where it gets away from simple observations and it gets into a movement type of thing where they've said that I am a God blocker hiding God, and that I'm a consciousness assassin, and that I might be stopping them from reaching transcendence, from escaping this hell. So
Sure.
they see this as a big deal.
Or the other alternative is it is a Mandela effect. And there's nothing you can do because they're running CERN and more shit is going to get even more crazy as we go on. But still, you know what? Is it going to change your lunch? Only if you like ham and you find out tomorrow there has never been a lunch meat called ham. It's always been bologna. It's never been ham.
Well, the thing is, look, I mean, I'm all for, this reality investigation, finding out what's actually going on. But I think that what we see here, and people are, free to question whether I'm wrong on this, but that's what my book is about here. I think we're looking at the mind of the Mandela affected being messed with. That it's all about this.
Yeah, listen, that's the goal. The goal is to confuse the masses. If there's one goal that they always have to bring order amongst chaos, it's confusion. So whatever it is, there's going to be plenty of more new things popping up. And not only Mandela effect, but other things. You know what I mean? You just got to be grounded in the truth and realize what's important and what's unimportant. Because when you, excuse my Keurig machine, I'm making coffees and listening to Tim, man. This is the way we spend our nights, the good way. But anyway, they're going to come up with plenty of other things, and it's just to cause confusion and division. And we got to just realize, what's important and what's not important. But what's important is, our country's being stolen. I know you don't believe anybody died in 9/11, but I had a friend I went to high school with, Sean Talon, FDNY. He died. Do I think his parents are down with a Psyop and everything? No. Could they be? Yeah. I don't know. He could have came home, said, "Mom, listen.
Look, I get more
I gotta go
callers. I get more
go into
callers
some
that are so connected. And look, what does this tell you? I mean,
But
everybody's
I will tell
knows
you,
somebody.
my wife's dad died of 9/11 cancer. It was all over his body. He was ravaged. Her uncle's dying of it. They were both in the cleanup. They were both in the her dad was in the manholes restoring the telephone lines and the internet down to Wall Street. And her uncle, who's dying now of all these cancers, was in the cleanup with dust all over him. But here's the other thing I want you to consider, because I'm not going to step on your opinion. I respect you, and I know you respect me, and that's a mutual agreement, even if we disagree on this. But I think that these people who are stealing the whole country have no problem killing a couple of people. It may not have been everything that they said. They could have exaggerated the number. I think the Pennsylvania plane disappearing is weird. I think the Pentagon not having any footage is weird. You know what I mean? I think the story that they gave us is total bullcrap. I think there was Real Player. Do you remember how big Real Player was in the 90s?
What is that?
Real Player was like a video player for the web, but it was really designed for like telephone modems. So you could listen to radio stations on Real Player. It was REAL Player, and it came in
Okay.
like a blue window that AOL used to tell you to download it. So it was a thing that, it was basically like a video browser before YouTube. And you could go to street cameras. You could go to like the Lincoln Tunnel camera from the Department of Traffic, and you could go to the camera that's on top of the Empire State Building. And when you watch the news and they're like, look at this beautiful sunset, they were using like the Real Player camera feed in the 90s. It was basically somebody who made a browser for video links and put it into English words. So it wasn't like a web address. It was like, this is the Lincoln Tunnel. And this is, you know what I mean? And you would click on it. So anyway, on 9/11, I was into the Real Player. I used to say, like before we went to Manhattan, me and my wife to eat, let me check the FDR and see the traffic. So I didn't have to wait for traffic on the radio. I put the live camera on. The thing is backed up. Forget that. We're going to take the West Side Highway. You understand what I'm saying? So on 9/11, it went down. And they had the ability that you could go back in time. So if you wanted to go an hour back or 2 hours back, whatever, on 9/11, it was all gone and it never came back. There were hundreds of cameras of the New York City skyline. Everybody in New Jersey and Staten Island used to be on Real Player for views. They'd put a camera on their roof and just point it towards Manhattan. And some people would have, the first projected televisions and things like that. And just as a screensaver, they would put Real Player on with the New York City skyline, and it would make your house look like you had a window overlooking Manhattan. You know what I mean? After 9/11, you couldn't find nothing. But those servers and those feeds were still alive, and if the government wanted to prove the plane was there, they could have got 100 different angles. You got a Staten Island camera, a New Jersey camera, a 34th Street camera, and they could have said, look, you see that little dot in there? That's the plane. That's the plane. Nothing. The other thing that was fishy was they said, if you have any videotape of what happened, you have to give it to the FBI. If you had a video camera, if you were a tourist or whatever, they confiscated all that video. No one has ever got it back. The only videos we see anywhere of anything on 9/11 are either fakes or people who broke the law and did not submit their video footage to the FBI. Technically, if I had a VHS tape that was pointed at 9/11 and I let it out today on the web, I would get arrested because I did not listen to them demanding to have that video footage submitted to them today. It's the same thing as like if you have a 1930 St. Gordon's gold coin. The coin's worth $1 million. But guess what? Roosevelt said you're not allowed to have them and you have to return them. So if you have one in a safe deposit box your grandfather gave you when you die, and you're like, holy crap, I got this coin that's worth $1 million, the minute you go to collect it, the Department of Treasury shows up and says, this is not yours, this is ours. Because you, 90 years ago, your grandfather didn't listen to the President Roosevelt's demand of turning all of these in.
How suspicious. They wanted to gather up all the footage. Yeah, there are so many things that raise questions for people, but I don't even think we got clear. I don't think we got clear.
We're the land of the.
I don't think we got clear.
We're the land of the. People should have known something was up. When that happened, basically all your freedom was over, and everyone was in, as the new term is, lockstep with it. And I'll admit, I was in it too, because I was scared. I was panicked. I was like, yeah, America. No, they would never lie to us. What are you talking about? Even when I was starting in comedy, 2004, I'd meet people that would say, and I'd be like, why would you even want to live in a country that you believe does that? That's so horrible. You know what I mean? Why would they do that?
Okay, let me ask
now,
you this.
I know.
It's
all about lying.
Are you familiar with all of the 9/11 predictive programming going back for decades and decades?
Yes, and I love the footage you put up about Ukraine. It gave me that same feeling like, oh my God, all the blue and yellow. And there are like 15,000 shades of blue in the Pantone chart, and like 30,000 shades of yellow in the Pantone chart. And you're going to tell me all the predictive programming had the exact 2 shades of blue and yellow as the Ukraine flag? What are the odds of that?
Same hues, exactly. Subconscious manipulation.
Pantone chart. People can Google it.
But
it's a basic standardization of colors, so that everybody can follow a color pattern, just like we have inches and millimeters and things like that. Somebody was smart enough to do it for color. So if you were on the other side of the world and, computer monitors and print and everything is not the same, what color? I want maroon 357, and boom, you have the same exact color on the other side of the world.
Now, I would contend that the level of predictive programming goes against the idea that people actually died. If the program was for a movie psyop to be played on the news as real, there wouldn't need to be murders just casually thrown in there, accidental or otherwise. I think those would work against the plan.
But we're not. I would understand if who was into being deviant was a respectable person.
I know they're baby eaters. Yes. I know they're baby eaters, but it would be unconscionably sloppy.
Well, it's what makes it really bad is they eat the babies with mustard.
Yeah. I
you know what I mean? The babies are definitely for mayonnaise and ketchup, hot sauce. But when you put mustard on them, you lost me, man.
Biden said prepare for shortages. It's 2022, so that may be on the menu. And I found a clip of a environmentalist. She was screaming that we need to start eating the babies. There's too much CO2 to
Right, I
AOC.
remember, and she was a phony. She was a faker.
Oh, she was so
There's a
good.
guy, Alex Stein. I don't know if you've heard of the comedian Alex Stein. So he's like a low-level politician in Texas. And he was serious. He was like, why are you forcing the shots? And nobody would listen to him. So he started writing scripts as an ultra left-winger. And today he went, the video clip came out. It was on Tucker Carlson. I was dying laughing.
Oh, that.
He was basically
Yes.
screaming. He was basically screaming that all the people there need to help Ukraine, and you'll never know who a real hero is. And he held up a picture of Zelensky, and he basically said, "I expect you all to volunteer for the Ukrainian army." And oh my God, it was so funny.
Dude, he's
And
a Poe.
and they
He's a
listened
Poe.
to him.
Yeah, he's a
He was
Poe.
serious to him.
Well, what he's doing, the
Yeah.
tactic, he's an extreme parody. Well, he's a parody of an extremist. So he's taking the extreme lib take on things, and they think it's legit, so they love him. They don't know he's just a practical joker. And yeah, I predict this. I have a note here on the screen. January 12th of 2022, I first saw him go on and do his rapping thing, and I said, I would not be shocked to see Tucker Carlson cover this because of the extreme ironic nature of how it's actually a believable lib.
Wow.
So I called
Wow,
it. And
you are either psychic or you pay attention, man. It's one of the two, Tim. You're either psychic or you pay attention and you put things together. That's great, man. That you said Tucker Carlson with him. Oh my God, it's so funny.
I said it
I like the Jordan
hours
Maxwell,
after.
man. That's what I like about you. Like Jordan Maxwell, I love the guy because he made you think. I'm not saying everything he said was right, but like when he talked about currents and currency and your birthing waters and a manifest document and admiralty law, if that was fiction, that is a masterpiece on its own. You could make a movie. Jordan Maxwell, the shame he didn't write a movie like Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson. You remember
Yeah,
that
you know
movie.
what? He told me actually. I think National Treasure, which Nicolas Cage borrowed lecture material from Jordan Maxwell. I don't think he got credit, but
And he was living in a shed. Could you imagine that? Yeah, of course he didn't get credit because people steal ideas. People will steal your ideas, and I'm sure they have. When that guy was selling the penguin mugs or whatever that weren't yours,
yes, there.
right? What was that? What was the?
Yeah, some guy tried to appropriate our mascot. This is a common theme. And with Jordan Maxwell, it's jordanmaxwellshow.com if you want to go check out his content.
Yeah, I know. I
But
know. I
jordanmaxwell.com,
actually donate money to him because I listen on, and I support your channel. But what I'm trying to say is, to me, if you give me something, like if you play a guitar in a subway station and you're good, and I have $3 in my pocket, I'm throwing it in the guy's case. You know what I mean? The $3 ain't gonna break me. But
right.
I appreciate you. Jordan Maxwell, I threw him a couple of bucks because I heard he was living in somebody's, and that is a shame of this country. So then you say, like, if we're loaded with people like that, maybe we deserve to be toppled. Because how could you be like National Treasure, which made millions, maybe even over $1 billion in the box office? It was a pretty big movie. And it was a good movie. I don't think it was the greatest movie ever, but it was cool. It was cool. It was like the Da Vinci Code. It was cool. You know what I mean? And you're going to make all this money, and then the guy you pinch the ideas from, you won't even throw him a bone. He was living in somebody's shed, and if you heard him in his last years, like 2021, he was like, he sounded like he had pneumonia, or something, because he was living in somebody's shed.
Yeah, that's intellectual property theft. He had to deal with cyber squatters where somebody bought his
And
domain.
I told you my personal story. I'm not going to get into it. But basically, this guy literally, my wife will be the witness, said half of my joke. So he was doing like the steal your punchline and then change it, whatever. But anyway, he watched my thing, and the guy made $50 million a year on NBC. You couldn't have literally said, you know what, I appreciate your jokes. If you let me say them on TV, come out for a day to LA. We'll put you down as a writing credit. I won't even pay you, but you could say you wrote jokes for the Tonight Show, and then you could go on. You could say that on your resume and get more stand-up work. Whatever. No, no, they don't do that, man.
Yes,
They're all greedy and they're all evil.
yeah, intellectual property is such a tricky thing, and there
There's a
are.
guy on the internet that I really like. He's called Mud Fossils, and I don't necessarily agree with him either. But he believes we had giants that were 100, 200 feet tall. He swears he has a finger with a fingernail that made a rock, and he had a DNA tested, and it comes back as human. Guy's name is Roger Spur. And I made a video on the old world order, and he literally on his thing posted it said, "This came from William blah blah blah's channel, 5 minutes of fame, and you have the link here." And I like what he said about this, and he credited me, and I thought the world of him. I probably got 40 hits on my video from it because he only got like 200 hits on his video. But that is an admirable person. Just like when I watch your show. If somebody comes up with something creative, you give them credit. You know what I mean?
It's important because what we're doing is we're forming a network of perceivers. And so this guy was smart enough to see that. Why would I want to burn that bridge and steal the idea? I want to.
Exact.
And we have.
Pick his brain more. You get part two. It could be even better.
And then you have him on your side. Yes.
Always sequels are worse. You talk to Jordan Maxwell for part one. You stole his ideas. For part two, you hand him a check and say, let's work on a sequel for part two. Watch the movie. Tell me what I did wrong. What could I have done? Boom. You'd be the one like, I can't believe that I watched part two and it was even better than part one. You know what I mean? How rare is that? Like we were joking around about Gremlins 3. They would never make a Gremlins 3 because what else could you do with it?
Yeah, I get the feeling that our psyops are just really bad sequels. Like our grandparents or whatever, they got Pearl Harbor, very dramatic. You didn't have a lot of counter evidence to it, so the story just stuck. 9/11, it was pretty good production for the time, and we didn't have the real-time networks online to criticize it the way we do now. But then, COVID-19 comes around, and like the special effects, non-existent, very bad acting everywhere. And I'm like, every subsequent major psyop is just worse. So I'm just wondering if the aliens show up, are we just going to laugh at them? Like, are they going to even be believable?
I think they're already here. And I'm going to tell you this, and I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I don't think you'll think I'm crazy. I think you'll at least minimum define it as my own reality, and maybe I had a brain short and seen something. But I saw a UFO up here. And there was a whole team of track workers that saw it too, working on the train track. But anyway, it just looked like 3 silver balloons, like in the profile of a Volkswagen Beetle. And then poof, it didn't take off or nothing. It just vanished in thin air, like I would say 300 feet from me and like 50 feet up in the air. It was about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. And it vanished. And they were like, did you see that? I said, it looked like a Volkswagen Beetle. He goes, yeah, it looked like a Volkswagen Beetle. I said, listen, don't tell anybody. They're not going to believe you, and they're going to think you're crazy. But I saw what you saw, and no, we can't do anything about it. So that's it. But what I think is, I think that there are look, you look around the world, we have come to great achievements as people over and over and over again. And then tragedy after tragedy after tragedy knocks us. Like, God, I can't think of his name, the guy on Rogan all the time, the author. We're a species with amnesia. Graham Hancock says we're a species with amnesia. I believe that. If somebody hit you in an alley with a pipe, you may not remember you're Tim Osmond and have this podcast. Where am I? What the hell is going on? You know what I mean? They do that to the collective. Every time we reach a certain point, either a number of population or an advancement of technology or this or that, and I think we're at that point again. It's coming around. You know what I mean? Who knows?
I agree. Amnesic makes sense, and I think that we're being put into this. We're being given a reset and a blank slate, but by a certain.
Ann,
I think there's somebody who knows. Like, I don't think that everyone's having.
If you could talk to ants, listen. If you could talk to ants, the bugs on the floor, all right, and you talk to the ones outside, right, and then you put them in an ant farm. And then the second generation worker ants came around. He'd be like, you don't understand, man. I came from a place there was no glass wall on the side. And it wasn't just we had up and down and forwards and backwards. We had left and right. And all the other ants would be like, "You're crazy, man. You're crazy. This is all there ever is. This ant farm is all there ever is." No, I'm telling you, with trees, sometimes you'd find an ice cream cone on the floor, and we'd all get stuck on it, but we'd still eat it. Yeah, you're crazy, man. All we have here is sugar water and four directions. That's mankind, man. We're the ant farm, bro. We're the ant farm, and there's something outside of the dome or the infinite plane or something bigger than us. And whatever it is, I don't know. I don't know what the purpose
Okay,
is,
so
bro.
if you're right and the aliens are already here, we're in an alien ant farm, whatever aliens are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can agree
Or
with
as
that.
Alex Jones, who I also respect and like. I'm not saying I always agree with him, but I find him very entertaining. Alex Jones, we're in a prison planet. But he says planet. So he's also, like as people would say, he's controlled opposition because he believes we're in a planet. Whatever. The beautiful thing is you're allowed to have what you want in your mind. The people you got to watch out for is people who want you to be a clone of them. I don't want you to. You can't say that. I don't believe that. That's not true. You have to believe in Jesus. You can't possibly believe in Jesus. You this or that or blah 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 blah. Where is the individualism, man? We're a nation of individuals. We are not a collective.
Yeah, and I think it's important to preserve wrong answers so we have a basis for comparison and we can reverse engineer it and understand why right is right. Because if you're born into a place where the right answers have been pre-selected for you, you don't know why they're right. And to me, that's not as I don't know, it's just
Right.
not optical. It's a state of ignorance. And I don't like that idea of ignorance is bliss, like in the village, where the less you know, the better. Just follow the leader. And that's really not me.
Oh man, Adrian Brody plays the best nut job. Oh my god.
Doesn't he? Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. That character, and you notice the three characters who saw through the village, through the deception. The village idiot who thought everything was funny, the blind girl,
Yeah.
and the critical thinker who was just suspicious of authority. But all the rest of the people
Right.
got along just fine.
Yeah, when I watched the other thing, the island, you remember the island where they were organ harvested clones that lived underground, and then they got you won the lottery to go to the island, and it was like, yeah, I'm going to the island, but what that meant is your organs need to be harvested for your real clone on the outside world who needs a liver. You know what I mean? Oh, I won the lottery, I'm going to the island. And the people are like, listen, I think this lottery's rigged. You know what I mean?
Right.
They'd kill him. you know. But anyway, I want to leave you with my last thought I had the other day. So, everybody was sure the Earth was flat a long time ago. And everybody was sure the Earth was the center of the universe. And a guy named Bruno came out with the heliocentric model. And the Vatican said, how dare you, and we have to put you to death. The Earth does not revolve around the sun. The sun revolves around the Earth. And everybody agreed he had to die. Boom. Nothing has changed since then. Why? Because if you don't go with the mainstream model, everybody believes you have to die. No matter what happens in between, all the other stuff is filler. The one thing that has never truly morphed for the better in humanity is that everybody believes that those we don't agree with have to die. And I'll leave you with that, brother. Have a good night.
Appreciate the call as always, and thanks for that. Have a great evening. Everyone, that's 5 minutes of fame. And yeah, I think that's what we're talking about here, tolerance. And I think that's the main reason why I even paid any attention to Flat Earth's ugly cousin, the Mandela effect, is they said, no, we will not tolerate those who can't believe it or don't believe it. We will call them liars and deniers. So they dropped the glove, they threw down the gauntlet when they decided to go after the non believers. So I guess I don't have a problem with religion. I have a problem with religious fundamentalists who want to convert or kill. I don't know when it became Mandela Akbar, but I'm choosing not to convert to that religion right now, and I'm not accepting their label of infidel, of sinner, of dark consciousness God blocker. I'm not a God blocker, whatever the heck that is. All right, hey, this has been great as always. We're going to be doing a similar thing. We'll be taking calls again tomorrow. We will not be hyper focused on this topic, as you know. This is just sort of a something we just had to discuss because it's a hot topic right now, and it's about truth. It's about perception, and if nothing else, I think we do need to learn about faulty eyewitness testimony, the influence of the person asking the questions, about suggestion, and about gaslighting, because these are things that the media does. Really quick, this was sent to me by Based Schizopill on Twitter. He suggested here that no, actually, this was sent by someone else. Based suggested that maybe it's not him. He says, Robert Barnes has been around for a while. I've seen him on Jones. I need more evidence. Okay, so what we're looking at here, Robert Barnes is an attorney over there at InfoWars. And someone said to me that they believe that this has been Rob Skiba in one of these masks. In this case, a very head thickening bald cap with a little bit of, it looks like a little bit of extra thickness on the brow. You can kind of see it looks very masky. So anyway, I do recall at the Vegas shooting, there was a witness who called in who sounded shockingly similar to Skiba. So I had it in my mind that Skiba was probably a crisis actor connected with InfoWars somehow. Well, then I see this. So is Robert Barnes Robert Skiba? Again, Robert Barnes. Is he Robert Skiba? Skiba was a director. At one point, he was even in the same room as Spielberg, which gives you an idea of the caliber of filmmaker and the potential he had, and he did a lot with it, as you would know if you followed his work. I have one of his books here. Real nice guy, but I don't believe he died of COVID. I don't believe in COVID. I do believe in crisis actors. I have more evidence for the existence of crisis actors than for the existence of any kind of contagious virus or pandemic specifically. You know, to me, I believe in bad weather. I don't believe in climate change. I believe some people get sick. Everybody gets sick here and there. I don't believe that one guy's bowl of underheated bat soup precipitated a global calamity. I think that's nonsense. But anyway, on the screen here, it looks to me like we may have another one of these crisis actors. So what's more likely? That he's a crisis actor or that he was killed by something that doesn't exist at a very convenient time at the exact same day that Joe Rogan and oh no, it's Kyrie Irving for this guy. Kyrie Irving was creating controversy for not getting vaxxed and for being a flat earther. On that day that Skiba died, Kyrie's controversy was trending. When Mac Parhar died, Tim Pool and Joe Rogan were trending because they were sharing shots of or doses of ivermectin, Dr. Joe Rogan. And I was just noticing all these crisis actors are dying at these very interestingly timed moments, like when this topic is trending. So I just thought, okay, this has got to be just an actor and a shill. Jake the Asshole's in the chat, and he says, actor, shill. I agree. Pippi Langström says he's born again. Well, the thing is, this character pre-existed or coexisted. Now, again, what we're positing here, what I'm suggesting, is that you're looking at basically a bald cap. I mean, look how enormous that crater, the cranium is compared to Skiba's, but the face and the features are all more or less the same. This is just one photo. I've been told the voices, who knows? I mean, somebody else needs to look into this. I'll check out later. I can't say 100%. I'm like 95% right now. That's where I am. Speaking of shills, I wanted to point this out because it's sort of a misconception. Russian Vids was rumored to have changed his name to RV Truth in solidarity with Ukraine. It's only a rumor, hasn't necessarily been confirmed. So just make sure no one's spreading that as anything other than a rumor. All right, I'm going to try to watch Batman this weekend. I will do a review of Batman. I'll sit down for the whole 3 hours. So thanks again, everyone who contributes to the channel. It always goes into the channel, into research. And I am going to go check out the Batman movie because apparently the Riddler is like QAnon. And you have some kind of Bill Gates-esque villain. So I'll be checking that out. Oh yeah, that reminds me. Let me go and bring this up really quick. So RV Truth, again, it's like van life, just in an RV, drives around in his RV spreading the truth. He put in a privacy complaint against Jake the A-hole. Yep. He put in a privacy complaint, so he doesn't want his face or his name out there. He's still using the name, rather the face, of Rowdy Roddy Piper for some reason. Anyway, if you encounter Brian Staley on Twitter or in Telegram, on Rofkin, on Twitter, anywhere you see him, ask him, hey, how come at 5:25 Mountain Time, live, on a live stream, you lied about remembering Timmy being pulled from the well? Because even John Provost, Timmy himself, says it never happened. Timmy says the well was the one place Timmy never fell into. Abandoned mine shafts, off cliffs, into rivers, lakes, quicksand, but never a well. So if John Provost is calling this a misconception and makes, or not even that, if he draws attention to it as being something that never happened, then the only people asserting that he fell into a well are the Mandela Psyop. And today, live, Brian Staley said that he actually remembers something that never happened. I mean, that's incredible. It's a miracle, if true, or it's a lie. And so until I get clarification, I'm just going to refer to this thing as the Lie-Della effect. Anyway, thanks for hanging out, everyone. We will be live Infinite Plane Saturday. I'm going to leave the live stream 24/7 on Twitch. Okay, so just a heads up here. Thanks for joining. This is 3/27/2022. The title of this live stream is, let me double check that because I updated it because it's unequivocally fake. I mean, you might want to believe it, but Hoax, Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, Psyop, totally staged. And there's a few reasons why I think it's totally staged, and we're going to go over some of those reasons. Well, first of all, it's on TV, and then it's a bunch of well-known crisis actors. What would make you even start off with the benefit of the doubt on their end? So, no. But we'll get into it. I'm just going to see who's here. We're on a new channel. We had 3 live streamed channels pulled down yesterday. They took down 2 channels for whatever we said on 322. And they pulled the live streaming channel last night. So this is a brand new channel. It doesn't quite have that brand new channel smell. It's kind of like a rental because this is something we've used before. It's an old channel. It's an old sock puppet. So if you're on YouTube, you're in a channel that's called George News. It's disposable. Don't get too attached. I can't hand out wrenches, but it's a place to chat and it still integrates with all the others. Alright, so this is Solomite Fly. We'll be back in just a moment. I'm going to send out a couple notifications. I'm probably blowing up your cell phone messages now. This is Solomite Fly with DJ Ready Rel.
CIA be lurking, I be in the turban. Little ones stay cursing, older ones out twerking. Talking about lack of education, streets are always dangerous. Two speakers playing, do you really hear what they saying? Do you know what that mean? Are you down for the team? They speak through signs and symbols, you can learn about these things. Live by 9/11, Club of 27. Once you think that they in heaven, nah bruh, it's a legend. It's all according to the code. Damn Illuminati with my mind, body, and my soul. That's why they snatching bodies, everybody in a Holly Grove. Deception is a hobby, switching roles with the auto close. We call that an auto hoax.
Man, what you trying to prove? Don't you know we've been around the globe and been to the moon?
Get it, that's an auto hoax.
You tripping, times two. What about the shootings that they always cover on the news?
Real, that's an auto
They don't
hoax.
move, we will make the way. Let it spray, right reality like an AKA. Let them know we don't play. They live like life's a party, but it's really like a breakaway. Meditate, focus your attention on your better days. You know what I'm talking about. Don't let these slimy narcissists, antichrist out there turn your eye. Freedom of speech is actuality. That's why the truth must spread by word of mouth, word of mouth. It's all according to the code. Damn Illuminati with my mind, body, and my soul. That's why they snatching bodies, everybody in the Holly Grove. Deception is a hobby, switching roles with the auto clone. Let me turn on my auto hoax. Not even a proven fact. The floor curves into a spinning ball, and you can test for that.
Globe is an auto hoax.
Man, you must be trolling me. Scientific theories aren't what they are shown to be.
Yup, that's an auto hoax.
So what you're saying is you don't accept the claim that's missing proof, then you label it.
Exactly, it's an auto hoax.
Wow, sports is scripted by the number code, but do I really don't? Let me turn on my auto hoax. Squad. Let me turn on my auto hoax and look this stuff up when I get home, cause boy, I tell you, these kids today is tripping. I ain't tripping, he must be tripping, cause
All right, everyone, that's Solamite Fly's Auto Hoax. You can find all these tracks at Infinite Plane Radio. Thank you for joining. It is March 27th, 2022, and the lead story this evening, and if you look at the screen, you can see Will Smith poking his eyes to summon forth tears. So the lead story is Will Smith punched Chris Rock over Jada G.I. Jane joke. And I don't see G.I. Jane as a negative character. It's a favorable comparison. But he went too far. Now, is this fake? Is it real? That's the question. I'm asserting it's fake based on the surrounding circumstances, presentation, and his subsequent speech where he cried. But let's go ahead and play this first. You can just watch it firsthand and listen.
He is praying that Will Smith wins. Like, please, Lord. Jada, I love you. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. All right?
Now, I could understand punching him just for not being funny. These people are paid to be funny. Nothing about this is. Again, I'm inclined to think the whole thing's rather hoaxy, but let's go ahead and watch this and go from there.
That was a nice one. Okay. I'm out here. Uh-oh, Richard. Oh.
There you have it, the punch.
Wow. Wow. Will Smith.
It got muted here. There's some other clips you can find where it's not muted. He makes a sarcastic remark about how it's the best programming on TV. Will Smith says, "Keep my wife's name out of your mouth."
Oh, okay. That was a greatest night in the history of television. Okay.
So his jaw does look kind of crooked right there. But was this real? Was it fake? Let's see what... Anyone here in the chat believe it's real? I think someone in the chat was saying there's no way they could have faked it. There's no way an award-winning actor, part of the Psyop entertainment complex, could possibly fake a slap. No way. Next thing you're going to tell me wrestling's fake. Or there's actually a war going on out there. In wherever. I'm suggesting that Will Smith is a crisis actor. So after this, he comes out and he gives a speech, and this is key. He gives out a speech and he says, "Art imitates life. I must look like the crazy father, Richard Williams." And I'm like, who the hell is Richard Williams? What is this about? Well, it turns out that was just a way to really tell us the story of what his movie's about. It's really about, based on this and his speech, the movie is seemingly about a very protective father figure having to protect his girls. And here we have Smith playing this out in real life. Now, at his acceptance speech in front of the Illuminati pyramids, with his crisis actor tears glinting in the spotlight, he says, quote, Art imitates life. Ha ha ha. I look like the crazy father, Richard Williams. So he talked about having to, quote, protect, and he used the word protect several times. Protect his co star, who played the mother of Serena and Venus in the film. So he was protecting her, and so he carried this role into this performance in front of everybody. I'm suggesting this is a psyop to sell the movie, because now I want to go see it. If this is the level of acting we're going to see, I think that's what we're supposed to take out of it. But there's more. I think this also might have some kind of relation to this ongoing war on free speech, and jokes aren't jokes, memes are actually bullets. The same people who want your bullets, that want your guns, yeah, they want your memes. They come in for your memes. And speaking of, like I said, we had 3 channels pulled last night because of our memes. I'm something of a free speech absolutist, though. I'm not going to censor anybody. What we're doing is a form of anthropology in a way, alien anthropology, examining a world stage which is separate from the world. And so what we're doing is so academic in my view, just from our perspective, that we shouldn't be branded as participating in hate speech. We shouldn't be branded as conspiracy theorists. But anyway, that's kind of beside the point. They don't have any way of discerning whether or not you're bad misinformation or just analyzing the misinformation. And so, yes, they pull our channels down. But that's why you get on the text message alerts. So everyone here who's on text alerts, you got directed to the newest channel. All right, so my rule basically is these things are fake until proven real, if it's an extraordinary claim. So is it extraordinary, I would ask, that someone gets up on TV and slaps somebody and sits back down and doesn't get arrested, and then gets an award for being able to simulate things convincingly in front of an audience? Some comments. Jordan says, Willie taking method acting too serious. Right. That's now again. There is a plausible story here. You know, his wife being attacked, and apparently she was sensitive about her hair. So I did meme her onto G.I. Jane, probably too soon. Hopefully they don't take down my Twitter account over it. OG Fepe says, stupid ball joke, shake my head, Chris Rock can insult better than that. And you know, to me, again, it's not a bad comparison. G.I. Jane is not really it's not a derogatory association. Flat Bastard says, cry cis actor. I tend to say cry cis act whore. It makes the point, I think, a little clearer. So again, I'm suggesting here, and in his own words, art imitates life, yuck, 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 that this is him taking his movie character into real life and showing how he will step up and defend in front of everybody. Moo, over in Discord, said, slightly entertaining for a minute. Every year there's some contrived argument or whatever, so I guess they had to escalate from words to an assault this year. People are getting desensitized. Reminds me of Kanye walking on stage with Taylor Swift and being an ass at the Grammys. That was probably staged too. Exactly. Who here doesn't think it's changed? I mean, staged. Who here doesn't think this was premeditated? And his speech that he gave, I don't know if he was reading it, but the speech that he gave was clearly it was spoken as though he was that character. And I didn't know who that character was until his speech, King Richard, the film. He plays Richard Williams. And he said, quote, art imitates life. I look like the crazy father, Richard Williams. And he laughs. So there he is on stage, scraping out the tears. And he laughs at his own association with the character he just played. I guess you would call that duper's delight. But slightly after laughing, he goes right back into the sad face, the tragic face. So to me, it's 100% looking contrived. Matt Walsh says, pretty sure that any normal human being who walked on stage during an award show and slapped a man in the face in front of thousands of people would be in handcuffs within 15 seconds of the assault. Psyop says at 2:09, the Fresh Prince says, yeah, he's going to go back to live with his auntie and uncle in Bel Air. He says, Denzel said to me a few minutes ago, at your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes for you. So he had this prepared speech. It was prepared. He was quoting Denzel, and yet it is attached to this supposedly spontaneous thing. And he look, Chris Rock was grinning, he was grinning, and I don't know, is this connected to all these comedians being hit on the head, falling? I don't know, but this is another comedian getting hit in the head. So there's another part of this pattern. You had was she is she a comedian? Joy Behar. We'll say she's a comedian. Fell and hit her head. Then we had the other one, the Vax hole. Something Heather McDonald fell and hit her head. Bob Saget, it turned out, fell and hit his head. And then you had, just this is just a recurring theme. Now you have Chris Rock getting slapped. So is there a story? Is this connected? Are they trying to kill comedy, like SNL's been doing for decades? But I mean, are they trying to maybe even put boundaries on it? Like, comedy's funny, but funny can also be hate, and we can't have hate. So, and look, even Klaus Schwab, our leader, I mean, that's what else am I going to call him? People seem to respect this guy and his vision, and we're going towards this reset thing, into the Great Reset. Well, Klaus Schwab is even talking now about the need to do internet lockdowns, the equivalent, essentially, of virus remediation, but for mind viruses. He says there's, quote, too much misinformation. Too much misinformation. It's like the movie Equilibrium is their end goal. So look, I think he earned his Oscar. Lean Dion says, then he won the first Oscar for the character. Exactly. Isn't this amazing? To me, this is the merging of the real and the fake stepping off the screen. These are the people who know there's a backstage, that there is a world stage. I mean, aside from us, but the people who are part of it know. A couple of other questions about this. Let's say it's real, or even if, well, look, we know it's fake, but the masses are going to believe it's real. So what message are they sending? Free speech, comedy off limits? It sounded fake, but if they really wanted traffic, they could have just had funnier jokes. There's no reason to have had this awkward thing. I'm thinking this is part of also sending a message. And remember, all these people are all about masks and triple vaccinations and social distancing. Where's all that? So anyway, Will Smith also does not set a great example for Scientology. Does that not include anger management courses? You pay for all those courses. And again, would a world-class actor be so easily triggered to respond like that if it wasn't a publicity stunt or a political message? So I'm on team fake. Anyone here think it's real? Your mom goes to college says humiliation ritual scripted. Yeah, like the Black Eye Club. Something like that. Stephen Granger says someone make sure Chris Rock doesn't fall asleep too soon. Now see, Jordan pointed out there was no foreshadowing, ratings didn't go up, only the clips after. Yeah, but my thinking is this might make people want to go see the movie, because I want to go see it now. I would not have known about it otherwise. Yep, so he won an Oscar for the same angry protective character. It's perfect. And look, I'm saying it's fake until proven real, and if your evidence is the TV, then what I would present to you is what you saw on TV plus the subtext, the mirroring of his movie character. To me, that enough is to suggest this thing is part of the Psyop entertainment complex. Then you look at these characters themselves, these entertainers, and is there anything spontaneous that's not rehearsed? Are they going to let one of their puppets attack another puppet on TV like this? I don't think so. Yeah, Jordan says, why not have security tackle for effect? Right, that's more, to me, more of an indication that the whole thing is fake. And the joke was boring. It's just some lame reference to just like, you see a bald woman and your association is some Demi Moore movie from decades ago. Like, that's a bizarre association. It's not a funny joke. It's Holly weird, Jennifer Lovecraft Reeves said. Yes, that's a Holly weird joke. And that's kind of what I'm suggesting. I mean, he probably deserved the slap just for the lame jokes. Just another government jester disguised as a comedian. Okay, let me go and open phones. 833-311-1984. I believe I have a voicemail. Let me go and start with that.
Gotta testify. Walk up in the spot looking extra fly. Till the day I die. I'ma touch the sky. Okay, now I'm gonna sing some more Kanye. Okay, you ready? Ready? On site, bum 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 bum. On site, bum 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 bum. On site. Let me show you right now before you give it up. How much do I not give a fuck? Let me show you right now before you give it up. Thank you for listening to my Kanye freestyle session. I will now proceed to do the grapefruit technique.
All right, that was a Kanye freestyle session from an anonymous caller. Might have been Kanye. Fascinating. Thank you. That was an award-winning performance right there. And that was not staged. I didn't know that was coming. All right, so we're discussing the fake event contrived. Tuna X12 put up a poll on Twitter. Which is more real? And you can answer in the chat below. Which is more real? The Smith Rock at the Oscars, the war in Ukraine, or neither? So far, 33.3% find the Smith Rock event convincing. 47% say neither, so that kind of invalidates it. But anyway, only 19% find the war convincing. So more than a third are more convinced by this than by the Ukraine. Not that they think it's real. The question is which one is more real. They could both be and most likely are fake AF. Maxwell said that sounded like Kanye. I thought so too. I really thought so. Even in some of the nuance there. Should I play it again? It's just a 30-second. This is a freestyle performance. Let's play it again.
Gotta testify. Walk up in the spot looking extra fly. Till the day I die. I'ma touch the sky. Okay, now I'm gonna sing some more Kanye. Okay, you ready? Ready? On site, bum 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 bum. On site, bum 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 bum. On site. Let me show you right now before you give it up. How much do I not give a fuck? Let me show you right now before you give it up. Thank you for listening to my Kanye freestyle session. I will now proceed to do the grapefruit technique.
Jared Board says, I can't believe Kanye called IPS. I kind of can. Because we're kind of an open door if you think about it. 24/7 800 number, no filter. I should put that on the screen right now. Call in, no filter. And the thing is, you have plausible deniability. Anybody could call in and say they're anybody. And even if that is that person, they probably just won't believe it. Which is it's kind of weird and ironic that stuff happens. There was a time when it was believed that Mark Dice was calling in regularly. And during one of the calls, just to mess with them, I started talking about Joaquin Phoenix. And I said, isn't it interesting that if River Phoenix didn't actually die, and he came back as Mark Dice, that he is now, if you put him side by side with the Joker, like politically on the opposite side of his brother, one's left, one's right. And I was just kind of pointing out just the irony of it. You got this uber Trump guy and you got this far left guy, and how they're on opposite sides, and their world stage personas couldn't be more different. And the more I talked about it, I thought he got kind of uncomfortable. And the next day, Mark Dice blocked me. So I'm like, was this a Mark Dice call? And if so, why would he be bothered about drawing attention to the River Phoenix hoax? Jordan says there's no cops inside the Oscar show. It's private security detail. Okay, I can see that. And I wouldn't have expected there to be any kind of altercation. They wouldn't have expected it. Kanye was prohibited from going. Now that's noteworthy. Just a couple weeks ago, well, last week, the big news was Kanye was, no, that was the Grammys. But anyway, drama on a night like this, with everybody watching on a Sunday night, random, I don't think so. Slightly entertaining for a minute, as Moo said. And I was looking at the Again, you look at the tearful apology and you see a crisis actor, and I'm just looking at it as this guy is earning that trophy. He earned that trophy right there in front of all of us, even if you haven't watched the movie. All right, let's see here. Yeah, it's a hoax because he's defending his character. That's my main point. So if you have anything to counter that, my main point is it's a hoax because it's mirroring his movie character that he's winning the award for. Now, the smack could have been real. I'm just saying it's staged. It doesn't need to be a fake WWE style slap. We don't know how much Chris Rock's getting paid to be slapped. Would you let Will Smith slap you in the face on TV for a few $1,000,000? I bet a lot of you would. And he's laughing after this in slow mo. Let me go ahead and play it. You can watch them both laugh. Because this is an act. Slow motion. It's clearly that's a solid, open fisted slap. Again, the fact that the slap could be real does not invalidate the idea that this whole thing is staged. In fact, if I was going to stage something like this, I would insist on a real slap. It's not like he punched him with a closed fist. Your Mom Goes to College says a Will Smith slap is probably like getting smacked by a wet noodle that smells like essential oils. Yeah, that's another thing to consider too. Look who's doing the slapping. Jordan says emotional reaction to a wife being ridiculed over, a hair condition. That is true, but the way you handle that is you just don't say anything and you let Chris get the flack after. But the idea that he has no control over his emotions just doesn't really say very much for Scientology. He should get his money back. I mean, if nothing else. Eric Gaber says you can make fun of her, but you can sleep with her and have an open marriage. But interesting point there, I guess. There is some talk about that, but this joke was really just kind of bland. It wasn't even personal. He didn't even go there. And he probably could have. But considering the location, the stage. Now, we do crisis actor analysis here. And when you look at the way people fake like they're crying, it often does involve physically touching the eyes. That's often a part of it. And again, he was quoted as saying, "Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father, Richard Williams." It's a good thing he didn't play Michael Myers from Halloween. Art imitates life. Oopsie. Like, that's no excuse. Okay, let's see here. Got a lot of interesting memes to go through. Seth MacFarlane said this means he's moving with his auntie and uncle in Bel Air. Yep. Now, I just got something random. I was going through my LinkedIn, and I follow Gary Vaynerchuk, who's this marketing guru, and he said, no amount of marketing is going to sell a bad product. And my response was, vaccines sell well. I just don't really get his point, I guess. Like, there's so much garbage out there that only sells because of good marketing. You use marketing if your product is crap. At least that's as I've understood it. Oh, by the way, I had to coin a new logical fallacy to start saving time because we've been going head to head with all these Mandela affected people who don't want to look at the alternative explanations. And I've been called a God blocker, which is a new term to me. I've been called a consciousness assassin and a God blocker. And basically what we're looking at is an explanation for confusion, for discrepancies, but an explanation that doesn't logically follow. Mandela effect is very non sequitur, and you could easily replace Mandela effect with magic and try to convince somebody of it. Oh, the reason why you don't recall this precisely is magic. And you'll see where it's actually going. But here's the thing I coined. Argumentum ad menduseldom. To attribute misspellings, common misperceptions, and apparent discrepancies to a supernatural change rather than human error. So if the first thing you do is you reach to supernatural change rather than error, as in you misspelled a word, the dictionary changed magically, it wasn't you. That's kind of what I'm suggesting is just it's a fallacy, and you're making an argument from Menduzelum. So feel free to use it, save yourself a lot of time. Jared Board says Kanye should call in and do a live performance. We got the 30 some seconds, and why would he be listening to this channel? Maybe because of the Kanye West world burning story we've been covering. And I'm not sure how that's going to turn out. I'm still kind of expecting there to be some kind of blow up, and we'll get there. Some kind of new OJ. Now, I said that a few of my channels have been shut down, and so what I've been doing is I've been going through those channels and capturing comments so I don't miss anything, because I won't be visiting those for a couple of weeks here. 2 weeks, 3 channels, all kicked off. And you know what I've noticed? They tend to shut our channels down before big psyops. Alright, let's see here. I'm going through my comment feed. Ryler05 says, Stavely and his buddy clearly looked like they'd been drinking. Look how flushed they were. Stavely's wavering stance and expressions plus the yelling. These guys drink and then do their shtick. Maybe the alcohol helps them stay in character, as long as they don't talk too much. Maybe I'm wrong, just an observation. Yeah, some people have been suggesting that the Mandela effect pushers are all government actors who are spreading misinformation to discredit the people who notice that the news is fake by distracting them with a shiny new object that says, oh, forget the news, reality's fake. But then they've taken it a lot further. It's almost Jonestown level insanity, but we're not going to talk about that right now. I just brought up the fallacy because it really helps, I think, save time. Here's the meme, too soon. Yeah, I did meme. Before I found any sort of explanation, I did see a meme pop up of Jada on G.I. Jane. I don't think it's offensive. Should I delete it? Will they kill my channel over it? Alright, 833-311-1984. I'm going to put a link to my Twitter account, Real Tim Osman. I have these new shirts available on Society 6. This is a design that was actually created for us by Mick Media. Well, not necessarily for us. You could say against us. I was interviewed by a reporter from Mick Media, and afterward they put this graphic on the screen, and they talked about it, and they said, you have these people who divide news perceivers into 2 categories. The auto hoaxers and the auto believers. And it was explaining what we're always talking about here, that those who accept what they see on the screen at face value are in the TV. They're in this augmented reality, the world stage. They're in the sim. And so they put this graphic up that actually has somebody in a TV, which is perfect. And then for the auto hoaxer, it has the all-seeing eye. So I didn't create this graphic, Mick Media did. And they buried the story, deleted the video, but I kept it. So there's a link if you want this shirt. It's very useful. It really is, because you're either or. You're on one side of this divide or the other. Which side of the green screen are you on? And most people don't even know how much their reality is really propped up by green screen special effects, deep fakes. And again, deep fakes are nothing new. The types of deepfakes that they don't want you to know about, only recently declassified, are the hyper-realistic masks that are so really foolproof. I mean, here's something to look at too. Look at the skin quality. So here you're looking at Joe Biden from decades ago, and then here we're looking at CGI Joe Biden. So when you compare the two, one of the things that I notice instantly is the skin quality, as in the older Joe Biden, it looks like an expensive Halloween mask, but the skin, impeccable. I mean, it looks masky, is what I'm saying. It looks like this whole thing is just a rubber hood. And then here you have the old Biden. Like, his skin looks better now than it did then. So the idea that this is some actor, and I would say the skull size is somewhat, well, a whole lot smaller. Now, recently I was contacted by a listener who suggested that we may be looking at a hyper-realistic silicone mask over the skull of Neo. And that's what we said yesterday. President Neo, he has an interesting explanation for it. And at first glance, I can't help but notice that their eyes are similarly vacant, and their skull shapes are very similar. Anyway, all of those shirts that you saw, you can find them on Twitter. Yesterday we talked about the supposed death of Taylor Hawkins. Another example of the blurring of real and fake. Here you have a movie about a fictional band, and the fictional band releases an album in real life on 3/25, and on that day the drummer dies. Well, in the movie about the fictional band, the drummer dies, and he's killed in order to unleash demons. So the story on this one, if you missed it, Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins is passed. In Studio 666, the movie, he's killed by David Grohl in an effort to create a song that unleashes demons into the world. So there's even some foreshadowing. The trailer ends with his death, and in the beginning he mocks David Grohl, asking if everybody feels a sense of death. So Studio 666 relates to real life, seems very, very hoaxy. I think they're going with the OD angle on that particular death, real or fake. I'm leaning towards fake. And so we dug a little deeper because David Grohl, of course, is associated with Kurt Cobain and the 27 Club Psyop there. So, in fact, I have a few things here. Rivers Cuomo. This is kind of just a side note, but there are some who believe that Kurt Cobain's death was faked and he came back as River Cuomo, something he could do the rest of his life. And we did find this interesting interview with Rivers Cuomo and Rick Rubin, where they play act as though this is true. And they talk about the conspiracy theory where Kurt Cobain faked his death and came back as Rivers Cuomo. And they talk about
but I did wear them in a big Nirvana video. I was in Bloom. So it's just like a little breadcrumb for people who are really paying attention, I guess.
Who's foreshadowing?
Yeah. You know, I was actually shooting that video that gave me the whole idea. I was looking back at it and I was like, you know what? I look pretty cool, man. This is just like the biggest FU to what everyone wants from Nirvana.
There you have it. There's Kurt Cobain as Rivers Cuomo talking about why he did it and how he even gave you some foreshadowing. He gave you a hint in the form of a music video where he wore the glasses, these trademark glasses. Okay, I have some more information here about Chris Rock and whether he's going to file a police report. Let's take a look. And thanks to Infinite Emperor for posting this link. We have real-time, well, what the Daily Beast called shit posting into oblivion, but we have real-time news drops all the time in our Discord server. Chris Rock declines to file police report after Will Smith's slap at Oscars, LAPD says. You know, I'm with the commenter who said that a slap from Will Smith would be like a wet noodle, that it probably wouldn't have been all that damaging. Lil Galaxy 56 says, looks as real as the Borat Eminem stunt. Let's see, going through your comments. Okay. Again, phones are open, 833-311-1984. David Pryor says, I was a big Nirvana and In Bloom was a weird video because they acted like a band like Weezer. So that might have been a tell. Like, I kind of think that they were actually telling us the truth. We're talking about Nirvana and Weezer. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I've been told that Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, was called Wheezy. Well, his singing style was supposedly mocked as Wheezy. I don't know if that's true. Weezer. Foo Fighters talk weirdo Kanye West, Justin Bieber, and Illuminati secret societies. This is where David Grohl says he's Illuminati by nature. Very strange interview. Here's David Grohl hanging out with the now deceased drummer.
1, 2, 3.
Don't say that. Come on.
Highway to Hell.
Yeah,
No question.
definitely Highway to Hell.
Okay, so this is just an interview about music, but they're talking about the Illuminati here.
Trust me.
And I'll play that clip. And of course, the movie they did is about demonic summoning and putting demons into their records. And this is from like 4 years ago, so this is kind of interesting.
Really was there. Analog's like there.
Oh, dude.
But it's just some.
Start talking about dimensions.
It's dimensions and secret societies.
The Illuminati. Is there a rapper named Illuminati? Like N-A-U-G-H-T-Y?
Oh, if there isn't.
Come on.
Illuminati?
What's up,
Now they're going to use it.
I'm Illuminati.
I'm Illuminati.
I'm Illuminati by nature.
So there you have it. Just some weird comments about secret societies, Illuminati. Some kind of shout out to Drake, Kanye, and Justin Bieber, who many believe is The Weeknd, weirdly enough. But there are a number of ways, a number of areas where that kind of touches on our bigger discussion. The idea that we have these deep-faked celebrities, deep-faked politicians. So the idea that Kurt Cobain would come back as Rivers Cuomo, or that Justin Bieber has a weekend job, a side gig. It's not that out of the ordinary. It's 100% fakeable, and these are things that we have a great deal of evidence for. Let's see, Lean Dion says Grohl is arrogant and annoying. David Pryor says Kurt's, quote, death allowed them to form 2 new bands. 737 says still S music. Yeah, well, anyway, if you have anything more on that one, the whole Studio 666 thing, I don't think I can get myself to watch it. I did look at some of the imagery, and I did see a 6-pointed star, but not the usual 6-pointed star. It's the unicursal hexagram, which you wouldn't use unless you were deep into Crowley. Let me go ahead and play a scene of Will Smith earning his trophy, getting the Academy Award for slapping Chris Rock, basically getting into the character that he played in that very movie. And here he is talking about it. And notice the hand sign, he's pointing up, and he's in front of the Illuminati pyramids with the little Lucifer, or whoever that is, the character, in the triangle. I mean, to me, this is all just ritual. There's no way these are spontaneous. Again, I don't give them the benefit of the doubt, but let's listen to his speech, because you're going to see some duper's delight. You're going to see some, I think, mockery, and I think there's even a tell when he says that art imitates life. And the way he says it, and again, Scientology, I can't really separate that from L. Ron Hubbard and the entire space program. The entire worldview that we have, is predicated on the world being what it is, a ball in space, and the space religion is a big part of this. And I think L. Ron Hubbard's role with Jack Parsons in Scientology, and then Marjorie Cameron, is very significant, she being an actress. So it's always been about the installation of a new religion, and religions all need their pageantry, and that's what the celebrities do in this system. They serve as the idols. Okay, we'll go ahead and play this acceptance speech. We'll go ahead and go through it. Now they start off acting like nothing happened. Now he's not crying. He's not upset. He's had plenty of time to cool down. He should be thankful that nobody cuffed him. He's laughing, laughing, laughing. Okay, get ready. Put on the tragedy mask.
Oh, man. Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family.
So he starts off, Richard Williams was a fierce defender of his family, just like me, when I went up and I punched Chris Rock. So just hearing that he starts off, excuse me for losing my cool. No, he starts off with, my character that I just played, that I'm winning this award for, would have done what I just did.
In this time in my life, in this moment, I am overwhelmed by what God is calling on me to do and be in this world. Making this film, I got to protect Ingenue Ellis.
There's the word protect again. Again, he's talking about you have to protect, you have to take abuse, you have to be able to have people talk crazy about you, you have to have people disrespect you and pretend it's okay. So then, right after this, he recites a quote from Denzel Washington, suggesting to me that this is all contrived.
Play Venus and Serena. I'm being called on in my life to love people and to protect people and to be a river to my people.
Okay, there's the tears. Now, you might think those are real. Maybe. I think so. I mean, he's a trophy award-winning actor. The slap could have been real. But this is, to me, method acting. And he just did something very, I imagine there might be some kind of adrenaline rush at a minimum, even doing a big hoax like this. But again, he wants to apologize. Now, he doesn't apologize to Chris Rock from what I can see. But I want to get to the part where he talks about art imitating life.
Now, know to do what we do, you got to be able to take abuse. You got to be able to have people talk crazy about you. In this business, you got to be able to have people disrespecting you. And you got to smile and you got to pretend like that's okay. But Richard Williams, and what I loved, thank you, D. Denzel said to me a few minutes ago, he said, at your highest moment, be careful, that's when the devil comes.
Okay, so there you have it. Again, talking about Richard Williams. Like, what does that have to do with you just assaulting somebody on TV? So it doesn't really follow.
I want to be a vessel for love. I want to say thank you to Venus and Serena.
Now, I can see the method acting. I don't think this is real. If you do, well, I guess he wins this trophy. But again, I think it's more method acting than anything. And the tie-ins, the way he's tying in this assault to the movie and to the character, no way. No way this can be real.
That's what I want to do. I want to be an ambassador of that kind of love and care and concern.
Now, if that's love, I don't really want any of it. You can keep it if your idea of love is slapping people in the face.
I want to apologize to the Academy. I want to apologize to all my fellow nominees. This is a beautiful moment, and I'm not crying for winning an award. It's not about winning an award for me. It's about being able to shine light on all of the people, Tim and Trevor.
Thanks for the shout out. Now listen to this. Okay, this is the part that I'm looking for, where he says that this is an art follows life moment. And to me, that would be the big giveaway, that you're looking at a staged event, is when the actor refers to it as staged or unreal or as something like a movie. And for him to say this is an art follows life moment, I'm like, yeah, that's typical of a psyop. And then there is a duper's delight that I caught as well. Going through some comments here. David says he can probably make himself cry. Lean said high emotion at the moment can channel it into tears. 737 says looks like a breakdown to me. Interesting. Yeah, again, just the way that he was able to parallel it with the movie, it sounds like a really clever way to actually sell the movie. Let me go ahead and get back to this for just a moment. Just less than a minute left of this entire speech. I wanted to skip over the boring part. And I couldn't quite tell when the tears started. I mean, it looked suspiciously to me like he was actually dragging the tears out of his eyeballs with his finger.
And Trevor and Zach and Sanaya and Demi and Ingenue and the entire cast.
Anyway, all of his enablers are applauding his assault. Nobody has stepped in to suggest to him that he almost got himself thrown into jail. Okay, we have a few people who are convinced that this is an authentic breakdown. And this is great. I mean, this is what we have to do. We have to be critical. And if it's convincing, it's convincing. Again, it doesn't mean it wasn't staged. These people know how to act. And I would imagine that a slap in the face is a small price to pay to pull off a stunt like this. And I think this might even have, here it is. I think this may have a political angle too. I think this is also going to get us to really have a conversation about whether it's worth it to have unmitigated free speech. Now here he is making a reference to the whole thing being a performance.
Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father, just like they said. The entire Williams family
Again. Smiling.
Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father.
Again.
Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father.
So he's smiling broadly. Art imitates life. I look like the crazy father. And then, now, mid-smile, he goes right back into tragedy face. Boom.
Just like they said.
He pulls a Robbie Parker.
I look like crazy father, just like they said about Richard Williams. But love will make you do crazy things.
Sniffing always helps. And then, of course, they're ready to focus on her. He says, love will make you do crazy things. And then they focus the camera on the one that he's defending out of love. So that was a punch done out of love. And they kind of just threw Chris under the bus. He's a guy out there, the free speech absolutist, making jokes. And did they arrest Chris?
Had her knitting friend.
I haven't heard from him. I'm starting to wonder, did they throw Chris in jail? Is Chris Rock going to serve time for hate speech? Salty Siren says the emotional crack is there for people to see. I don't think he actually had a breakdown. Lean Dion says Hollywood Heartfelt is so cringe. Yeah, this is super cringe, but everybody here is probably crying. This is fooling people. And this is the type of acting that they put on TV to get people to give up their guns, to give up their dino juice, to give up their freedoms. It's like all you need is just some convincing actor. The ones who can actually shed tears win awards. The ones who can actually shed tears get to be in the big movies. The ones who can't, they become crisis actors. The ones that you see at these one-off events. The only tear I've ever seen from a crisis actor was at 1/6/2021. It was a pro-Trumper. But she had an onion in her Kleenex. She had like a handkerchief with an onion in it, and she was wiping her eyes. She got busted. All right, let's see here. Going through some comments. David Pryor says the audience loves it. OG Fepe says hashtag free Chris Rock. Finbar, who won Best Actress? Yep, a real or fake. If I had to take a poll here, I think nobody here is convinced that this thing is real. And his performance was good. Those are real tears. I believe it. Maxwell Cooper says they're probably all together now at the after party in a pizza shop basement drinking baby blood. Yeah, I think so. Well, I think they do that after Saturday Night Live. The last time I watched Saturday Night Live, it was Elon Musk and Grimes. It was the only one I've seen in years. It was actually pretty decent. And I was looking into it. Apparently, Musk is lonely because Grimes left him for that naval intelligence officer. And this naval intelligence officer and Grimes are apparently very, very serious, as in U-Haul serious. So they just had a baby, she and Musk, and now she's out there dating Chelsea Manning. But what I read today was that Chelsea Manning actually had a U-Haul go over to where Grimes is, so they're together, Chelsea Manning, Grimes, and now Musk is out there almost seeming to me depressed, talking about how he doesn't think that we should live that long, that he doesn't want to spend or invest his life into life extension because he thinks that we already asphyxiate the planet. I have some very dark comments from Elon Musk. I don't know if he's having some kind of I don't know, maybe it's a depression, but yes, Musk has been kind of abandoned more or less, I would say, and is not taking it too well. Let me see if I can find that quote, because he did say that we are asphyxiating the planet. And he even said something about we shouldn't allow people to live that long anyway. Yeah, lonely Elon Musk says humans shouldn't live longer. They will asphyxiate society. Elon Musk says humans are trying to live longer, and this will stop society from advancing. NDTV, quote, not afraid of dying, it would come as a relief. Elon Musk. So Musk is suggesting that we shouldn't have leaders above a certain age because they're out of touch with the present and the new generation. But he talked about death, so he's no longer talking about immortality, uploading his consciousness into a synth, living forever in some digital paradise. Nah, he's ready for the relief of death. Something's up. Someone check on Elon. All right, David Pryor says he misses the witch. You know, he does have some interesting exes. You got to look into the writings of, I believe her name is Justine Musk. She wrote some books having to do with essentially clones in underground bases, satanic rituals summoning fallen angels to inhabit the cloned, soulless bodies and animate them. Interesting stuff. Musk admits he's lonely after his split with Grimes. Says that he's scared that we are going to asphyxiate society, referencing politicians that are older than the bulk of the population. Fascinating. Lonely Elon Musk does not want to help humans live longer. So he no longer wants to help us live forever. Strange. I think this is a major turn. I was thinking he was going to be one of the first ones to sell us on the uploading of your consciousness. And I mean selling. Like, I think that's what they're going to do. We've been talking a lot about Klaus Schwab and the coming AI god, or this idea that, and this is what I think Musk is leaning towards, the idea that human beings are volatile, erratic, and we need something a little more cool-headed, like some kind of AI bot. And we just brought up Will Smith because he was making out with Sophia, one of these synths that they brought up there to the UN. OG Feppa says Musk should date Sophia the robot. Who says he isn't already? You know, that could be the surrogate. We don't know who the surrogate is for Baby 2. It could have been Chelsea Manning. Is Chelsea Manning the surrogate? Would that work? I think it's confusing a bit there, but so the main story, Will Smith faking, well, it's a staged event, but it was a real slap. We wouldn't even call it a false flag. We would call it a hoax. Chris was paid to get slapped on TV. That's one thing you can take out of this. Your mom goes to college, says Sophia and Jada have the same hairdo. Right. Good point. If you haven't seen Sophia, Sophia also happens to have a significance within the Gnostic cult. You have the goddess Sophia, an embodiment of wisdom. Sophia is not a goddess in the classical sense, but is associated with wisdom, the divine feminine. And then you look at Sophia the robot, which is basically a Muppet. A Muppet given a script that basically, it's just like Greta, essentially. Greta Light. It's a Hanson Muppet, but you got to look up robot or you won't find her. I guess that's a disparaging term to call a robot a Muppet. Robot Sophia and her goals for the future. I mean, I've listened to this thing. I think it's very problematic. It was designed, obviously, by a man. It's not difficult to see why I would arrive at that. So many questions I would have, like who decided Sophia's gender? Why give it a gender? That's kind of problematic. So many problems with this thing. Now, this thing has been brought out on stage, and Jimmy Fallon flirted with it, which is kind of worrying. You know, he and those others over there, these when he's at SNL, associated with some disturbing things, he had her on, and she brings out a miniature robot version of herself. Let's just play this clip. Celebrities making out with Sophia the robot. Or flirting.
Some places
Awkwardly flirting with her. And it's like they're normalizing it. So here's a short clip of Jimmy Fallon talking to the robot and its mini-me.
You're so cute.
You're pretty cute too. You're pretty cute too.
I'm gonna put you back down now. Okay. Wow. That just kind of scared me.
Creepy or not.
Yeah, creepy. All right, let's see here. Restless Bear says Sophia getting passed around. Little Galaxy 56 says theory, a female's less threatening. Right. They didn't want some AI bot claiming to be the ultimate intelligence mansplaining things to us. But I listened to it and I was like, wow, it's just basically save the planet, no more capitalism, get your vaccines. Basically, we're going to destroy the planet if we don't cut back our carbon footprint, stop breathing so much. It was a big downer. That's not what I would expect some super intelligent being, some distillation of all of the ideas and information out there. Like, this wouldn't be the best you could come up with. Greta is probably a better scriptwriter. I found some hopium circulating. So if you haven't been following this story about the Gina Thomas, so you have Clarence Thomas's wife was texting to him leading up to the 1/6 event that all of the bad guys, Hillary Clinton and all, were going to be shipped off to Gitmo and killed. And I like bringing this up because a lot of QAnoners or QAnon friendlies don't want to admit that it is, at the end of the road, a very bloody a bloody storm. The storm they're trying to bring about, the whole QAnon thing, it ends with killing a bunch of people. So here's an example. This was on anonup.com. I would call this bad hopium. Trump told you a dozen times, Biden is shot. The actor playing the president is now under a dissolved corporation that holds no power. It's bankrupt, like writing checks with no account. You saw the flags, the gold fringe is gone. 1776 Constitutional Republic. The DC owl is captured. It's all theater at this point in DC. So what the nonners are circulating is the idea that we're going back to a 1776 Constitutional Republic, which is fascinating considering the Pluto return, which was on 2/2/2022 at the point where it was back July 4th, 1776. But they're suggesting that Trump's still in control and the political theater of the day is just to keep us entertained while they finish up the work of beating the deep state or whatever Trump's doing. I mean, it's kind of sad at this point that it's gone on this far, but it came back because Ginny Thomas and her tweets. And her tweets are bottom of the rabbit hole. Like, she's basically suggesting, yes, please overturn the election. All these bad actors are going to be sent off to Guantanamo. And I don't know how she would have fallen for it. Makes me think that this is all part of the bigger psyop. Maybe take it seriously when a coup advocates talk about throwing people into Guantanamo. I do find it weird how people can kind of omit this fact. The first I heard about Q was that the draining of the swamp, the killing of the deep state, meant a lot of executions in tribunals. But Clarence Thomas's wife is a QAnon believer. And she's full on, like full-blown QAnon. Alex Jones is being targeted for arrest. If you didn't know this, the Sandy Hookers are trying to seek his arrest because he didn't show up to 2 different depositions. Now you should know by now that Bill Hicks is Alex Jones backtracked on the whole story and is insisting that the thing is real, and the people who thought it was a hoax didn't have reasons. No, they didn't deconstruct the news. No. The reason why you don't believe it's real is because you had a psychosis. So, on top of backtracking on the story, doing a flip-flop, doing a Rogan on us, he was also crowdfunding off his listeners for his legal defense, when at the same time he was making millions, more than $165 million off of Sex Scoop, Gwyneth Paltrow Sex Scoop, repackaged as super male vitality. That's a lot of money. Your Mom Goes to College says of Sophia, that's Greta Thunberg 1.0 model. Interesting. Well, they took her out and they gave her human rights in Saudi Arabia. Yeah, it might have been a trial run. Alex Jones says he's treated worse than people on death row after dodging Sandy Hook deposition. Watch them pull him in. Anyway, so these are the topics. Is Ginny Thomas a QAnon fangirl? Is Jones going to jail? Did Chris Rock get paid to get slapped by Will Smith? I don't think he would have done it for free. Like, I think it's safe to say that Chris Rock got paid to get slapped. How much do I have to pay to slap Chris Rock on the face in TV, right on TV. Just slap him right in the face. Apparently, it's for sale. We could crowdfund it. Let's crowdfund it. Let's crowdfund. Just someone hit up his handler and say, "Hey, we got some money. We want to slap him on the face on TV, like Will Smith did. We know that he's a crisis actor." Because if it wasn't totally staged as it appears, then he literally consented to getting slapped in the face on TV. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I mean, it's all just show business. All right, going through some comments. OG says, Thomas is currently hospitalized with a flu-like infection, could be exiting the world stage soon. Which Thomas? If you want to fill me in, some more details there. American social media platforms should stop enabling Russia's Z campaign. They're all worried about the Z and the Q. I've noticed this war on memes, and this is the reason why they're going to war on memes. It's about an infodemic. People can rally around a simple icon. And, Clarence Thomas with the flu. Right. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, what's up with him? And then this comes up. But anyway, it has caused stir among the QAnoners. Like, I thought it was done, and suddenly I see hopium going around. And I pointed this out yesterday. JFK Jr., or somebody pretending to be JFK Jr., convincingly enough for the QAnoners, is now selling anti-aging cream. So he's hawking anti-aging products, so they're kind of back. I would say that the QAnon movement is back. President Trump decided to reveal the secret anti-aging product he's been using. This product renews the cells in your body and makes you look younger. Have you noticed he looks younger? And I did see this airbrushed photo. Now, speaking of Trump looking younger, I came across a channel called Super Recognizer. And this is something worth looking at. Super Recognizer seems to think that Donald Trump is a construct, not even a real character, and that this reality TV show, Trump was called the king of reality TV at one point. But anyway, there's a video that kind of convincingly posits that Donald Trump might actually be Martin Sheen in deepfake, as unbelievable as it looks at first glance. And this is one of the common tactics, though, is that when you have somebody being repurposed, you totally invert the major things that you would look for. So with Trump, of course, you flip the hair back, does it look like the same guy? The exaggeratedly orange hue of his skin could be part of the ruse. There are some similarities, and the Super Recognizer video brings up some points that might suggest there's something to it.
Hey guys, Matt, coming up.
So I'll go ahead and play a clip from that, and then I have a clip from Matt Quantum of Conscious I wanted to play that's also rather intriguing. Again, what we're looking at is this notion put forth by Super Recognizer that Donald Trump is not Donald Trump. That we're looking at a complete fabrication, a skin suit, something that was never real. Again, this is Donald Trump is Martin Sheen, Super Recognizer. I don't necessarily agree with this. It's my first time looking over this video. I saw it today, and I thought fascinating. And he has some clips in here from Marshall McLuhan, which are worth listening to, about how politicians are selected based on their charisma and what that means.
The TV president and the reality TV president. How is this possible that they look so much alike? Martin Sheen played the president on TV for 7 seasons from 1999 to 2006, almost 2 full terms. By then, we were very used to seeing this face in the White House. Many of the people who think Trump is the opposite of what a good president should be credit President Bartlett with embodying that ideal. He looked like he belonged there so much that some Irish people wanted Martin Sheen to be their president for real.
Okay, so we're looking at these comparisons. I'm going to play a few more clips here. The visuals alone may not give it away because disguise is intended to throw you off.
No matter how alarmed we become at Trump's chaotic reign, we can keep calm and carry on because subconsciously we have seen that same face play the role maturely. And indeed, people have turned to rewatching The West Wing as a sort of escapist balm to soothe the pain of Trump's aggravating presidency.
Now you're looking at the two of them side by side. The video is called Donald Trump is Charlie Sheen. Hilarious title. But let me play this clip. This is someone who's written extensively about media and its influence. This is Marshall McLuhan speaking.
When a politician goes on TV, he has to have charisma, or he's dead. And some people, charisma means looking like a lot of other people, like Cronkite. If you reassure people by resembling a lot of other people they know and approve of, you have charisma. But if you don't have a resemblance to a lot of other people who are socially acceptable, then you had better stay out of politics.
Martin Sheen played the anti-Trump, the president people wish they had instead of Trump, but he also played the president that they're most afraid Trump really is, the independent populist Greg Stilson from the Dead Zone, who launches nukes on a mad whim.
So what Super Recognizer does, and this is what we do as well, is he goes into the storylines and how they merge together. But he does a little more. He does some facial comparisons worth looking at, and then when he merges them together, as you'll see, they do sync up pretty well. So at a minimum, you're looking at a very interesting coincidence of a president resembling a television president. Another one of these mirrored situations we're talking about. My take on it would be, it's more likely that Trump would be stylized to look like a TV president than he's the same guy. But let's go ahead and listen.
Two unrelated people look this much alike by accident. And it gets better. Look at this. Even people who, quote, look alike don't have the exact same proportions between features on the same size head. And it's even more dramatic when they're laid on top of each other. Everything lines up perfectly.
So make of that what you will. There is a curious alignment between their faces. There are some obvious differences in skin tone and hair, but these are surface things. But beneath the surface, they line up pretty well. And then not only that, but not only do they physically line up, but their stories do. The president, and of course TV president, reality TV star. This is one of these situations again, where it's the blending of the world stage with the real world, as like with this Psyop tonight with Chris Rock and Will Smith.
There's no significant blurring or difference between the layers.
David Pryor says, it doesn't look the same to me. You know, in Westworld, whenever the simulations are shown something like a glitch in their matrix, they all say the same thing. It's a pre-programmed response. That doesn't look like anything to me. Like they're inoculated against anything that might break their programming. So again, I'm looking at this and I don't see it. It doesn't jump out to me at first, but when he put them together and then overlapped them, I was left kind of thinking, I'm going to have to bring this up tonight.
Proportions between features on the same size head. And it's even more dramatic when they're laid on top of each other. Everything lines up perfectly.
And I'm not saying you're pre-programmed. What I'm suggesting here, though, is that there's a bias towards not making these. I mean, in fact, it's a symptom of mental illness in the DSM to scramble identities like this and then construct elaborate stories to make sense of it. So, yeah, I mean, this is something that's not really you would be, I would think, kind of fooling yourself to automatically assume these things to be true. I mean, these are things to investigate. But no, I don't see it either. It doesn't jump out at me at first, but this overlay kind of does. It's curious at a minimum. But you'd also have to compare it with the other angles that may contradict it. What about their heights? What about their walks? So, and the voices. So there are too many other factors here.
There's no significant blurring or difference between
Yeah, the voices
layers.
would also give it away.
Extraordinary alignment of all features, except for the hair. They're basically the same picture.
I would also say they're not the same in the nose. There are similarities, but again, the question here is, are they close enough? Can you bridge that gap? Is there a level of disguise that could turn person A into person B? You won't find, I mean, Justin Bieber doesn't look like The Weeknd at first. And even then, does he? Well, only the features that you can identify. Oh, here we go. He gets into the nose. Let me see what he says.
See if there's anything more concrete. One difference is these weird maxi pad looking flaps on Trump's nose. What's going on here? Are these inflamed sinuses or some kind of prosthetic? But that's not the main problem with Trump's nose here. What's up with this shadow?
Now, prosthetic noses are a thing. Prosthetic noses are certainly a thing. And now he's pointing out how the shadow on this picture doesn't make sense.
Very black. Too black. As if the only light source is directly overhead, which is clearly not the case. Without that heavy shadow, it's the same nose. And that shadow is fake. This is an error level analysis showing that the compression rate for that specific part of the image is inconsistent with the rest of the image. A classic trace of manipulation. But why alter a photo of Trump? Is it supposed to make him look better?
So here he's suggesting that there's some modification. Now he goes back to some of his others that are far more convincing. Here we have Yuri Gagarin and Neil Armstrong.
Armstrong shows a strange anomaly on his neck. Is this related to the bizarre story about Yuri Gagarin's telltale neck mole? Maybe not that, but the question remains, why manipulate the photo at all?
Telltale neck mole. So if you don't know the story, the first man in space, Yuri Gagarin, dies in a mysterious fiery crash. They couldn't find his body, much like a lot of these ritual deaths that are based on the sun god who's dismembered and they can't find his body. They couldn't find his body until they found a small piece of flesh with a mole on it. And someone said, oh, that's him. I recognize it from the mole. Very strange story. But I kind of think it's an inside joke because he was something of a Soviet mole if he did indeed come back as Neil Armstrong, as Super Recognizers pointed out. And I think there's something to that. Now, a Super Recognizer has a few other areas he goes into regarding this theory that Martin Sheen and Donald Trump are one and the same, going back into the catalog of Martin Sheen's work. Let me go ahead and play a few more seconds, and then we'll move on.
Sheen has been described as a friend of the Kennedys. He's played both J and RFK.
Yeah, okay, here's the other part of it that's kind of interesting. Because you have this obsession with the Kennedys, with Q, and how this has to do with this idea that the Kennedys are coming back to save us. And so another interesting note here is that Sheen has played these roles.
Effectively an agent of the Kennedy family, narrating a gradual disclosure of the swamp's role in that legendary mystery. Sheen has been described as a friend of the Kennedys. He's played both J and RFK. And his son Emilio directed a film about the night that Bobby was retired.
His son Emilio directed a film about RFK, 42, being killed by Saran, shot with a 22. I think it was 1968. Anyway, this is very interesting at a minimum. I'm not convinced necessarily, but the more I hear it, the more I'm compelled to look. You know, I'd like to have a debunk. And the first place I would look, of course, would be probably contradictions. Same place, same time, that kind of thing.
Anonymizing disguises. We still don't know the half of what it means to be a poly-celebrity.
Now, he's also suggesting, too, another point that he makes, the final point I wanted to get into here, was he suggests that these presidents are actually composite characters, costumes, rodeo clowns for us to focus on. And that's all they are, rodeo clowns. Let me go ahead and play that clip.
Crowd management ruse.
A crowd management ruse. That the president is not a person, but a crowd management ruse. Like a rodeo clown to distract us from...
To humanize the president, literally. Not to make you like them, but just to make you think they're human. Not because they're really lizards, but because they're fictional characters. The president is a crowd management ruse. A lightning rod or rodeo clown made up to distract angry bulls. That is, to distract you. It doesn't matter if you despise them as long as you're thinking about their continued.
So, is that it? Are we looking at rodeo clowns? This clown world order might be a real thing. Okay, so last I checked up on the Chris Rock drama, he's not pressing charges, and that's probably because he has been paid. Definitely get on the newsletter, infiniteplane.radio, infiniteplanesociety.com, or join Patreon, Infinite Plane Society, because YouTube is right now trying to scrub us again. They pulled 3 of our live streaming channels in the last 24 hours. The last time we had a purge like that was in August, September. They do this periodically. I'm always wary. Whenever we get too close to 1,000 subs or a certain number of hits per week, we start setting off red flags, and we've done it again. If you just got here, Will Smith defended his family in front of the world by slapping Chris Rock the same exact way that his character would have in the movie he's winning the Oscar for. So he wins the best Oscar for a role that he literally plays out in front of all of us, sending some very mixed messages. Is it okay to slap people? Are comedians like, that's what I was thinking. I wouldn't be surprised if they arrest Chris Rock for this. And it is a real slap, but don't let that distract you from the fact that it's a staged event. They do blow things up. They do control demolitions. They do have to have some special effects. But that's, again, to me, that slap is not a point in favor of this thing being real. It looks very, very contrived. It actually looks rehearsed. Cubstar says, the slap makes me suspect Smith's EGI status. Do you mean CGI? You suggesting it's a hoax, or EGI, elite gender inversion? And are you suggesting Will Smith is a woman? Which is what I think you're suggesting. All right, let us continue. We've been talking about the boring Mandela effect. I do have the book. I lowered the price down to $3 if you want to read the ebook. Timmy Never Fell Down the Well. It's this simple. The actor that played Timmy grew up and wrote a book about it, about being Timmy. And the book was called Timmy's in the Well. He was making a joke because out of everything Timmy fell into, he never fell into a well. So the people who claim they remember that are not recalling a memory, but a memorized account of what happened. We've deconstructed it, and as a result, we've determined that there isn't actually a Mandela effect. It is a non sequitur to reach for that as an explanation for what is really just a common misperception, an apparent discrepancy, a misspelling. So I came up with a new logical fallacy to put this whole thing to rest, argumentum ad menduseldum, to attribute misspellings, common misperceptions, and apparent discrepancies to supernatural change, rather than human error. It's that simple. Lil Galaxy 56 says that was a feminine slap. Cubstar says he slaps like a girl. Yeah, I don't know if I would use that. I like the wet noodle. Like, it did look like a wet noodle. It didn't look like he actually meant it. If he had a closed fist, if he had knocked him out cold, then I would have believed it. But no, I think that was pretty fake. YouTube sent me a nice message. They said, thanks for your review, because I basically sent them a note about what I thought about being banned and why I was suggesting they review my channel again. And they said, did you know that most creators never get a second strike? Check out our Kami guidelines anytime you're unsure about posting content. And I don't know if this was a joke or not. Why did they send this to me? Second strike? I must have had 400 strikes by now. 500. How many strikes have we had on this channel? Just in the last day, 2, 4, 5. Grangerman says a female swimmer could have slapped him harder. OG Feep says this isn't the first time Will Smith has slapped a man in public. Yeah, look, I'm leaning towards theater. I think it's all theater. Fake until proven real. A lot of people seem to be taken into this one. I'm not. Check out this diagram. I don't know if this is being patented yet. Orwell starts spinning in his grave. Attach generator to spinning Orwell. Infinite energy. Our energy problems have been solved. Kind of a sarcastic remark just about how almost overused this 1984 thing is, this analogy, but it's actually true. Orwell will never stop spinning in his grave. That's why I put the number up as 833-311-1984, because it's a reminder that the year is 1984. Always has been, always will be. David Pryor says YouTube's going to send Will Smith to slap you. Look, they're going to say that the slap was justified. That's the problem here. They're justifying it. They're justifying the idea that some free speech it just goes too far, and you're justified to use violence and force to stop it. And that's my problem with it. I don't think you should be allowed to use force. Here's a couple of things I saw on a Twitter account, and I'll share a link. It's that Donnie Darko Twitter account where he goes into this theory that Trump is the Antichrist. So he may not be Martin Sheen, but he might be the Antichrist. Elizabeth Christ Trump dies on 6666. Fred Christ Trump. So you have the Christ and the 666s kind of built into it. I don't know if that means anything to any of you, but I take note of these birth dates and death dates when it comes to the world stage characters. And the more I look into it, the more I'm seeing that yes, the evidence in favor of Trump as Antichrist is in fact piling up at an alarming rate. So we'll be digging into that. David Pryor says Fred Trump was masky. I wonder if he was someone else. Fair question. One thing that's undeniable is that the Trumps have been written into the world stage. That this is like this is something we've looked at closely, but you can find references to Trump as far back as 1958 in a movie, a TV show, and then also there's one in a movie. Hey, does anybody think this is weird? Here's a clip of Kevin Hart suggesting that The Rock is wearing some kind of prosthetic on his head.
Dwayne, get out my fucking comment section.
Again, this is Kevin Hart.
Go do something, man. You know what? I got something for your ass. I got something for your ass. Do it again. Do it.
So he's talking to The Rock on Instagram Live, and The Rock has interrupted his breakfast. And I've been saying for some time that The Rock is most likely wearing basically a bodysuit. You know, I mean, maybe he is working out and stuff, but I look at it and sometimes I'm wondering, are these celebrities faking it? You know, like Chet Hanks. We've often wondered, you know, is that some kind of a chest suit? So we've been talking about The Rock as being either pumped full of synthol or wearing a big rubber muscle suit because he's impossibly huge. You can't even walk through doors anymore except sideways. So listen to this.
Do it again and I'm going to click on you. I'll click on you. And let the people see how you look during the daytime. Newsflash, Dwayne's forehead isn't real.
Okay, newsflash, Dwayne's forehead isn't real. Well, he says forehead, but
it's a prosthetic.
He's laughing, saying that The Rock's head is prosthetic. And yeah, it's I mean, it's funny, I guess, but he's really laughing like he knows something. So there you have it. Kevin Hart revealing that The Rock might actually be prosthetic. All right, going through some comments here. Jackie Jack says, Kevin Hart is big jackals. I worked his shows. Horrible. Cubstar says, head wound on Hiram. Are you talking about the Chris Rock thing? Yes, what's with all the comedians and the head wounds? The comedians getting, falling on their heads and now getting slapped on the head. And now, this is unrelated, but maybe not. Kevin Hart roasting The Rock on IG Live, calling him basically prosthetic. And I'm just suggesting that there might be some truth to that. OG Fippe says The Rock is a marshmallow. Could be. I recently watched HBO's DMZ. Very good series. It's just a single season thing. But a couple of things that stood out. The leader of the one that consolidates everyone and allows the DMZ, the demilitarized zone, to remain independent. The leader, her name is Z. I'm like, it kind of ties in, I think, with some of the news about this Z. So the main point about this movie, though, that I find interesting is that this is a projection for the future, post-Civil War America, where you have an entire part of the country that doesn't want to go back. And they're all fighting to maintain their independence from the USA. The USA are the bad guys in this whole thing. And of course, it's run. I mean, this is all just programming, and I think you can see where it's going. It's pretty obvious. You look at the archetypes they use and the narratives, the stories, and like everything else on HBO and on Netflix, all of the strong leaders that replace the men are women. And this is all just preparation, in my opinion, for something. But it's a great series, DMZ, if you want to see what the ideal is to the political left. And the ideal is, of course, shutting down the economy. That is part of this, a green world order. It's about reversing the Industrial Revolution. It really is. It's about this return. It's like an agrarian reformation, this communist takedown of freedom, disguised as some kind of perfect society. And it's anything but. If you watch this and you carefully pay attention to the subtext, you'll see that there's kind of a bit of engineering here going on. Okay, Finbar says, what's the name of the movie you recommend about a girl raised in an underground bunker that imitates space? That would be Orbiter 9. I highly recommend it, Orbiter 9. I'm not going to give you any spoilers. Easy to find movie. Very well done. Let me know what you think if you've seen it. It ties into the idea that deep space is quite literally deep, deep below. This is a video. I'm going to share a link. This is by Quantum of Conscience. People have been asking me if I've watched this person, and I haven't. But I took the time, and I found a video, and this one is great. It's called Reality Breakdown, 50 Lincoln to Kennedy Coincidences. And what he does here is he makes a very, very strong case for something that we talk about quite often, that there is a bit of scripting going on in our reality. And even if you don't agree with this or don't believe, when you are confronted with dozens of coincidences piling up, the burden of proof gradually goes to your side. And what he has compiled here are just a number of these coincidences that show these really uncanny connections between the assassination of Lincoln and Kennedy. You know, recently we were talking about this because Meatloaf, supposedly, Meatloaf, 2 words, was supposedly at the JFK assassination, and he saw the blood of Kennedy on the Ford Lincoln at Parkland Hospital. So I'm like, wow, he sees the blood of Lincoln. I mean, the blood of Kennedy on a Lincoln. Like this Lincoln-Kennedy connection goes back and forth. Then you have the Ford Theater where Lincoln gets shot. So Ford, Lincoln, Kennedy, and the dates all correlate as well. So I'm going to play about 30 seconds here, maybe about a minute. This is called Reality Breakdown, 50 Lincoln to Kennedy Coincidences.
Because that's rare. Most presidents come from a governorship or the distinguished Senate. The House of Representatives, people don't realize this, really consider peons compared to senators. Senators almost...
He's talking about how both Lincoln and Kennedy came from the House of Reps, but again, there are many other parallels, and that's what he's going through, 50 of them.
To the House of Representatives was in 46. Of course, 100 years apart, 1846, 1946. Number 7. Each was elected to the presidency in 60, 1860, 1960. Number 8. Both defeated incumbent vice presidents to win. That's very rare. That's number 8. Number 9. their vice presidents were both named Johnson, last name Johnson. Really? Okay, that's my threshold. We'll keep going. Number 10, Andrew Johnson, vice president, born in 1808. Lyndon Johnson, born in 1908. Number 11, they both were ship captains. Number 12, they both suffered from a genetic disease. In the case of JFK, Addison's, and in the case of Lincoln, Marfan's disease, but both genetic diseases. Both were shot in the head. 14, both were shot on Friday. 15, both were seated next to their wives when shot. 16, one shot in a Ford theater, the other shot while riding in a Ford. 17, each assassin did it in his place of employment. The assassin did it where he worked. Both of them. Booth, many people don't realize he was an actor at the Ford Theater, which is now Ford.
Oh, another actor, theater, interesting. Okay, so it goes on. There are definitely many more, and they get pretty intricate. And the dates, I mean, look, a few of these, 10 of them, 20, 30, but no, he's got 50 of them. And there are more you could go into if you're willing to stretch it a little bit. But I think he went with the ones that he figured would go over well with the ones who are most in denial about the proposition that our reality is scripted. Let me play a couple more here.
The Ford Motor Company Museum in Dearborn, Michigan. The Ford Theater is a museum today, but nevertheless the seat is there. I'm going to say this one again, but it is truly mind-boggling. 39. Kennedy's seat in the Lincoln car where he was shot is in the Ford Museum.
Kennedy's seat from the theater where he was shot is in the Ford Museum.
Again, it is truly mind-boggling. 39. Kennedy's seat in the Lincoln car where he was shot is in the Ford Museum. Lincoln's seat where he was shot is in a museum called Ford. Unbelievable. 40.
Okay, so the pattern here, though, is the mirroring. The repetition, but there's a mirror here. Anyway, this is fascinating. I was sent this video, and this is what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the facts, what you can verify. That's the main thing. I could care less about somebody's particular explanation for it. A lot of people think, oh, this was done by the demiurge, by God. This was done by magic. This is Mandela effect. CERN did it. I don't really care for people's explanations. We'll get there eventually. To me, it's really about the facts, and this is a great documentation.
Only 2 times an incumbent vice president ran for president and lost. Incumbent VP Nixon lost to Kennedy in 60, and incumbent VP Breckinridge lost to Lincoln in 60.
There's another one. So this is excellent work. These have all been verified. All right, let's see here. Let's move on. Recycled stories, recycled crisis actors, even global warming is just a recycled flood myth. It's quite literally that. It's a flood myth. For the atheistic world order, it doesn't have God, but it has science. And the science says, cut down on your wicked consumption of fossil fuels, or you will get the flood. It's the same program. Jackie Jack says the Mandela effect makes perfect sense. I kind of don't think so. Oh, you mean my book, my Mandela effect Psyop debunk makes perfect sense. It does. And I'm not doing this out of some kind of mean-spiritedness to block anybody's path to immortality, as was said by that Nathan character hanging out with Brian, his drinking buddy, whatever. He said that I am, speaking to me, a God-blocking a God-blocking consciousness assassin. I'm a God-blocking consciousness assassin? Because I'm debunking what is tantamount to a mind game to get people to accept a false premise and believe in what I believe are fake miracles. And religions have been faking miracles since the first religion. Religions are basically about miracles and this connection to the divine that the priest can give you. But yes, I put out a book, The Mandela Effect Debunked, explaining how it has more to do with memorization and eyewitness testimony being notoriously unreliable. And the whole premise, or the whole basis for the Mandela effect, really is the idea that you can trust your recollections, like implicitly, like your memory is perfect. And until I see a spelling bee champion coming down with the Mandela effect, I'm just going to assume it's people who are really bad at spelling. Like I kind of described it somewhat sarcastically in the book as though a bunch of F students were conspiring to say that they were the A students and to have the A students deposed. Because that's kind of what they're doing. They want to say that they have the right answers, everyone else is wrong. It's a fascinating phenomenon slash religion, and it is a religion. I think it ticks off all the boxes. It's a religion. And it even has the main thing that religions are about, infidels, the non-believers that you can rally against. When have you ever heard a Mandela effect enthusiast not spend most of their time complaining about how the rest of the people don't see it, how they're all affected, they just don't know it? And to me, that's kind of not fair. It's like saying, oh, you're a sinner because you're not part of my religion, or you're an infidel. Like, I don't have to accept your labels. I'm not a part of your religion, so you can't call me a denier of whatever your God is. And if your God is the spirit of Nelson Mandela or whatever, I don't necessarily have to even respect those beliefs. We're talking about observational data. We're talking about information. We're talking about trying to get to what's actually real and separate it from all of the augmentations. And then here we have false explanations. Let's see, let's move on. Now, the Mandela effect is a very sensitive thing for some people because it has become sort of a de facto religion. And when I say it's become a religion, I mean it in the sense that it actually offers salvation. And what was very clear the other night when we heard the review of the book is that they see this as a way to escape this reality. As though this is, look, if you really hate this place, I think it's an attractive idea. But the idea is that they are accelerating their spiritual evolution and that they are transcending the limitations of time-space, that they're escaping, and that I am blocking them by contradicting it. And that's where they get off calling me a God blocker. So when I said that Nelson Mandela is their God, I'm not really mocking it. I'm just going off of what they tell me. I'm blocking their God. So I have a link to the audiobook version of it, which you can listen to free. It's about 50 minutes long, and I'll post a link in the chat. And right there it has the ebook right below. So if you want to check it out, here's some reviews. Thirst for Truth says, "Rip the Mandela Effect." Zanussi says, "I don't think you can debunk ME, as people misremember all the time." I assume you mean to debunk alternative reasons. I can't listen for 50 minutes. No, I'm debunking the ME. I'm saying that here's the thing. The Mandela effects, the discrepancies are real. Their explanation is not real. So Mandela effects are real. The Mandela effect is not. Meaning, Mandela effects are just mislabeled misremembrances. The Mandela effect itself is a miscontextualized magic trick. That's what it is. It's a magic trick. David says it's a crappy religion. Yeah, that's true for most religions. False promises, fake miracles, a hatred for the non-believer. Yeah, I'm underwhelmed. I really am. Space.com, carbon footprint of huge observatories raising climate change concerns. Isn't that great how they can attach that? And again, carbon footprint. This is all just code. They want to get rid of your carbon footprint. They want to get rid of your footprint. They want to reduce the amount of air you consume. When Elon Musk is talking about people who are too old are asphyxiating society, I find that to be kind of worrying. For someone like Musk, he's depressed because Chelsea Manning stole his wife and their 3D printed baby. So maybe he's got something going on. I've been wondering, is Musk some kind of Dr. Evil in real life? He doesn't have the Dr. Evil typecast that Jeff Bezos does, but I think about these 42,000 CubeSats. It's like, what is he really doing with those things? Because if you didn't know, 42 is a number associated with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy specifically. And the movie starts out with the world surrounded by cube-shaped alien spacecraft, and they blow up the Earth. That's how it starts. And of course, he escapes. So Musk sends out this car to outer space, which I think symbolizes his own escape plan. But the car goes up there and it says, "Don't panic" on the dashboard, a reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, again, the movie starts out with cube-shaped craft blowing up the Earth. And I'm like, well, who has a bunch of cube-shaped craft surrounding this place? Musk. Maybe that's not a coincidence. And it wouldn't take very much to turn those Satelloons into kinetic weapons, rods of God. Simultaneously, basically destroying major cities. I mean, 42,000, what kind of damage? Space junk Armageddon. Courtesy of Musk, some kind of like evil supervillain. And again, his recent talk has kind of got me wondering about that. He has been a little morose. Not a good sign. I mean, normally he's the opposite if you follow his Twitter. All right, let me go ahead and replay that voicemail someone was asking. We got a voicemail a little while ago from what someone might have been Kanye West. It's Kanye West freestyle.
Gotta testify. Walk up in the spot looking extra fly. Till the day I die. I'ma touch the sky. Okay, now I'm gonna sing some more Kanye. Okay, you ready? Ready? On site. On site. On site. Let me show you right now before you give it up. How much do I not give a fuck? Let me show you right now before you give it up. Thank you for listening to my Kanye freestyle sessions. I will now proceed to do the grapefruit technique.
All right, that is one of our callers. Again, appreciate all the callers, everyone in the chat and comment section. Always appreciate all of the input, and we always have great callers. Even the randoms are often great, whether that was Kanye or possibly Alex. Is it Alex Stein or Alex Stein? Must be another Mandela effect. Or it could be anybody. I mean, we have a lot of good voice actors that call in. For a moment there, it sounded kind of Chief Crowy, but I don't know. I'm leaning towards Kanye. All right, so hey, this has all been great. Appreciate everybody calling. I'm looking, and it looks like the internet consensus is that it's probably fake, but everybody who sees it on TV will think it's real. I should point out that Jada Smith was very sensitive about her recent hair loss, medical reasons, health reasons. So it wasn't fair game for a joke, which makes me wonder, would he come to the stage with random jokes? Would he ad-lib, or would Chris Rock have it all together and have everything already scripted? Because how did he know that front row Jada Smith would be there bald? How did he know? And of course, are we to believe that this was just kind of random or scripted? So just the fact that he made a joke about her hair, which is something that, how would he have known? And if he knew, I think it's safe to say he would have been aware of the reason for it. So anyway, the whole thing looks kind of like hoaxy and staged. OG Fepe says arrest Will Smith. No, I think the consensus is going to say arrest Chris Rock. So let me leave this. Let's just leave with this prediction here. My prediction is that the media will fault Chris Rock, and Will Smith will come out as a hero for defending his family and defending the honor of his wife in front of a bully, using the weapon of free speech and comedy, which are the new weapons of mass destruction. They'll call it malinformation. They may even remove the term joke from our lexicon and replace it with malinformation. Jokes that aren't funny to Big Brother, basically. Anyway, this is Lucifer Tim, 33rd Degree. Have a great night. We'll be live early tomorrow. I'll be starting off the 24/7 live stream again, hopefully on the new YouTube channel once it's been verified. So we'll be live again in about 12 hours. Get on the newsletter and don't miss
Walking down Duke Street, what did I see? A little black upon the door beckoning me. I had a little read of it to see what it could be. It said this is the court of the 35th degree.